time, what happened to us and sort of the legislation that we're putting forward that would have made a difference in our case. My name is Shannon Burkett. I'm also known in this neighborhood as Cooper's mom, and this is Cooper.
Hi, I'm Cooper. I was diagnosed with lead poisoning when I was 9 months old. And in the past recent months, I've been creating a documentary that's called Forever Chemical. It's gone into several Academy qualifying film festivals. And
And we also have Gabrielle Gonzalez from Clean and Healthy, who has been working very hard on legislation. Going to also speak a little bit afterwards about the Lead Paint Right to Know Act. So we'll just play the film. Thank you.
PowerPoint or the film?
The film. Thank you all. Gabby, do you want to say a few words about the Lead Paint Right to Know Act, and we can bring up the slides? I know there's slides plus a video, lots of aids to help you understand this disease and our process.
So we are trying to have the Lead Paint Right to Know Act reintroduced in 2025. It was,
This is Liz from We Act. She's also been working super hard on getting legislation passed, and both, they were very integral in getting the 3 laws that were passed in 2023.
they were passed but not signed into law. So we're hoping that this session, we can have the Lead Paint Right to Know Act be a statewide, thing. Do you want to talk about the civil stuff?
Yeah, first of all, sorry I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm Liz, I'm the Toxic Policy Campaigns Coordinator at Environmental Justice. Environmental justice work at the city, state, and federal level. So in my role, so I focus on toxic chemicals, at the city and state level. Our protections at the city and state are a little bit different. Here at the city, we're thankful that we have a lot more protections than at the state level. In 2004, New York passed like one of the most groundbreaking laws when it comes to combating lead poisoning, and it was called Local Law 2004, which was supposed to get essentially like get rid of lead poisoning by 2010. Unfortunately, because of that law, and like a lack of enforcement, and also just like a lack of enforcement from the city, but also not holding landlords accountable. Landlords aren't really doing the testing that they're required to, and they're also not doing the abatement that they're required to. So we convened the city roundtable. What is it? Sorry, the city round. No, we convened the roundtable, but we are the New York Coalition to End Lead Poisoning. So last year, we advocated for a couple of bills that would really close the loopholes in local law. One of 2004, which would require more auditing. It would require the permanent abate, well, it would require that all landlords have to test, homes for lead by 2025, and also all like common dwellings have to be abated by 2025. So it really closes a lot of the loopholes that really hold landlords accountable to actually testing, and then once they do the testing, to actually make sure that they're abating the houses, before another tenant moves in. That was a lot.
Thank you. And basically, so the Lead Paint Right to Know Act, it's a very simple bill. If you buy or you rent, it basically tells you if you have lead in your home and where it's located. That would have made all the difference in the world for us. We didn't know, we were ignorant. We didn't know that there was lead in our building. And Cooper got sick when the construction site filled our apartment with lead dust. The contractor told me repeatedly that there was nothing in the dust. Every year, 5,000 kids the last 2 years under the age of 6 have been diagnosed with lead poisoning. That's 10,000 in just 2 years. I don't know if anybody was able to see or read the Washington Post article this weekend. What's really exciting is that the EPA is lowering their threshold for what is tolerable for lead dust. So the lead and dust is now going down for the EPA federally. They did a story and they featured a child who was eerily similar to Cooper. It actually sent chills down my spine. When his lead levels went up, he lost the ability to speak. When his lead levels went up, he also got pica. And he too had violent outbursts. The difference is though, I'm not sharing all your secrets, but but the difference is that this kid, his lead levels went above 20 twice. And this child is almost 5 years old and he has only regained a couple of words. And he's still wearing diapers at almost 5 years old. These children have their futures stolen from them by lead. You all on the community board, you are the voice of the people. You can also be the voice of those that are our most vulnerable citizens, our children. Cooper is an amazing kid, but he also has had many different services from the city. He has had SI, counseling, OT. He's been in an ICT class for a number of years. We scaffold him with tutoring. He also is under the care of professionals at NYU Child Study Center to help him regulate his emotions. He is a wonderful kid and I am so proud of him, but it took money and it took resources and a lot of hard work to get him here. We don't have to do this to our children. The Lead Paint Right to Know Act is as Senator Breslin says, it's a simple bill. And it's a couple $100 to get a lead test in your house. That's it, just a couple $100. It's going to be absorbed by a tax credit. So if a seller goes to sell their home or a landlord goes to rent their home, they just have to test. That's it, a couple $100. I'm telling you, as a society, we are paying way more by allowing these kids to be poisoned. You do have the power, as Cooper says, you do have the power to make a difference. You do have the power to send our message as constituents to our representatives and tell them that this bill is important, that our children are important, that our children's brains are important. Last thing, I became a nurse after Cooper got sick. And I worked in the neuro unit, and I can tell you that the kids who have been exposed to lead have very similar characteristics of a traumatic brain injury. They are the same. And basically lead is like taking a baseball bat to a baby's head. It's really, at this point, does anybody, I can open it up to questions or?
Thank you. I mean, first of all, what can we say? That's the most extraordinary story, and I'm really grateful that you're sharing it with the community that's here. It's really critically important, and I thank Wendy Chapman for having brought it to our attention. And so, but you're here. We have a resolution before us as a committee to support the act as it's been described. I can't imagine there's going to be a great deal of controversy on this, but I think we should open up to questions that people have on our committee or the public. we don't have, infinite time, just to say.
Yes.
Just echo everything she just said. Thank you for this and for bringing this to us. But I would like to focus politically.
Mhm.
So at the Senate,
Yeah.
State Senate, why was the bill not brought to vote out of committee? Who do we deal with in the Senate to move it along? And the same set of questions, although preliminarily, for the city bill that we just discussed. Where does that bill sit? And who are the legislators that we need to address to move it?
Last year, Senator Kavanaugh was our district. He was one of the sponsors of the bill, as well as Assemblyman Rivera, who you saw in the presentation. Assemblyman Rivera came to Woodstock yesterday. Cooper's film premiered at Woodstock. And he said, off the record, that he is more than happy to sponsor the bill again. Hopefully Senator Kavanaugh is also happy to sponsor it again. I don't really know why it did not get out of committee. From different groups like Mom's Demand, and, sometimes I understand like, oh, if you had X amount of bills one year, then the next year is not your year, but maybe the year, so it can be political that way. I don't want to put any words in Senator Kavanaugh's mouth, but I don't know why it wasn't passed. But, we're hoping between the documentary and I'm going to do a podcast of our story. We're really going to try to get the word out there. The other issue is that 87% of these kids live either at moderate or low poverty levels. And these kids are our most vulnerable citizens. This isn't happening to kids whose parents are gonna be able to have the bandwidth to say, like, this is happening to my child. So we feel a responsibility that we need to say, this is what's happening to kids, 5,000 kids in the state of, in the city of New York State is #1 in the nation because we have the oldest house. It doesn't have to be this way. It really doesn't. It takes knowledge, you need to know, even just putting up a picture. If this wall has lead and you put a nail through it, you just put dust all over the rug, and it's now in your rug, it's in your fabrics. You have a baby crawl on that rug, they put their hands in their mouth. It takes the tiniest little particles to poison a baby. Babies are so much more vulnerable. It affects adults. It's actually, you can look it up, it is used, there's something called construction harassment, where some people will use it to try and get tenants out, and it's really horrific. They'll buy up a building and then they'll buy a few of the rent-controlled tenants out, and then they'll demo and they'll fill the whole building with toxic dust and to get them out. It's used as a harassment.
Go ahead, Joe.
My question, I think I'm not sure who it's for, probably for you, Alice. And that is, the agenda, or maybe it's for Lucy, the agenda had a link to a bill, which I clicked on and read, and that bill looks good. And it sounds like the bill that we're talking about, but I just wanted to get clarification. Did the link in the agenda actually link to what we're, yes, then it's a good bill, and I think it is worth supporting.
Anybody else? Wendy, go ahead.
So, thank you very much. I also just like how you should tell the community, like how many, you live, how many minutes walk from here?
Right across from City Hall, 258 Broadway.
Yeah, so this is very
So we're
local.
responsible for you.
So it's very local and yeah, and the other
You have a
thing
chance
is,
to face it.
We do. We do.
Yeah, I mean, it literally happened in our neighborhood, and it was the construction site below our apartment. They were switching it over to a bank, and if the lead paint, right, Snow Act was in place. When the landlord, had the lease turned over to the bank, they would have had to test the space for lead. But the way the law is now, you just have to hand somebody a pamphlet that says there might be lead here unless you test. But if you're forced to test, then you have to let the people know. Then we would have known. And the issue is that when we didn't know, we were looking all over, we didn't know, we trusted them that there was nothing in the dust. So his lead levels, we actually watched go up. So there's two different junctures where we could have stopped his poisoning, we could have stopped it in the beginning, and we could have stopped it from going up, just with the knowledge. That's all we're asking for, is to give families, individuals, people the knowledge.
It seems.
Just one very quick,
Okay, but then
what's
I'm
the
gonna slow
city
down
bill
question.
that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's multiple city bills,
Or
That
maybe you
would-
could get that information to us?
yeah.
Okay. It's like
Yeah,
inputs
I'll forward it.
before, that would be perfect, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll include it in
Yeah.
then the whereas, so we have a little bit more of an understanding of
Yeah.
where the city is at.
Mhm.
But tonight we have before us a resolution, thanks very much to Wezzy. And I want to just know if anyone has any further questions on it, or, whether we can, in fact, I think the where, this is a draft, of course, but it's a very simple whereas, excuse me, therefore be it resolved that we are indeed supporting this bill as it's been described.
We may want to add in there to ask Senator Kavanaugh just to support it and introduce it again.
I think, yeah, unfortunately, Dan was not well tonight. He was supposed to be here, and I think he is very much in support, but I think that absolutely you're right.
There is a
Not
press
to our
conference that
template.
Senator Kavanaugh is supposed to attend on Wednesday at 1:30 on the steps of City Hall.
Can you say that one more time?
Yes, on Wednesday, this is Lead Prevention Week. At Wednesday at 1:30, there's going to be a press conference, and WEACT and Cooper's Court Committee, and we're going to be rolling out some recommended budgetary allocations for the budget, and also these bills, and also studies that they've done recently.
So, one of the things, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I'm gonna give this
Yeah, no.
one, you, I mean, you
Yeah.
already do, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to, we're gonna be working on the budget later on. What should we be advocating for specifically in the budget?
City budget.
Yeah, the city budget. Is there anything specifically in the city budget that I just want to make sure we get the language that. you know,
I can send you all of the,
Let's do that. 'cause
yeah, I
then we
can send you the
we can put that in
budgetary
our,
asks.
yeah,
That would-
because we're working about that later on. so.
Do that tonight.
Yeah, I'll do
I
that.
need it right away. That's great. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Thanks for
You
bringing
can,
it. Okay,
if you
let,
can email that to the office, not only to Alice and Wendy, but it needs to go to Zach Balmer
Okay.
and Nana One.
you have those. Okay, I'm gonna close it down with our former chair, Ward One, Catherine McVeigh.
So I have two little questions.
Mhm.
One is, does it include both public and private housing? And two, what form of determining whether lead is present? How are they testing it? Because the methods have changed over the
I think
years.
it's specified in the bill itself.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
usually, I mean, it literally looks like a price gun, and you
So
go
it is the
around,
XR.
yeah, it's
Okay.
the XR.
So that's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And your other question was that,
Is it
public and private.
housing?
Yes, but the public housing, believe it or not, in New York City, the number of lead cases, just in New York City, not statewide, they're lower than private housing at this point because the regulation, the regulations for public housing have increased over the years. So now it's actually like private housing that's even more of a serious problem. So it would apply to everybody.
Well, okay, so I'm just gonna quickly, is there anyone that opposes the support of this bill?
The name of
Resolution.
the, therefore be it resolved.
Yes, it's not in there yet. We have to correct name, right, that's what it says. Yeah. Anyone want to abstain from this? So it
Was the
looks like,
question called and seconded?
Call the question.
Seconded.
thank you. So it looks like we have full support.
I'm gonna recuse because I
Okay,
decided.
yes. Okay, great. I really want to thank,
Megan,
I'm not, sorry, not recuse.
you're gonna abstain?
Staying.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh
you.
my God.
Very, very, very much. You know, this effort that you have in this film, by the way, is extraordinary. And your story is
Yeah.
extraordinary. I can't thank you again. So grateful that you shared it with us, and please keep us updated and in any way that we can be supportive of you.
Thank
You'd
you.
like to be.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
Okay, well,
This
thank
is-
you again.
you know, a lifelong fight for.
I should say, well,
Remember? She said.
so we're gonna move on. Richard, if you want to take that offline, to, our next, as promised, 6:30-ish. We're moving on to a different topic, which is the update of the Seaport Coastal Resiliency Plans. We seem to have the whole year. And I'm sure you found this very interesting, so I'm actually glad that we had this order for the agenda. So I guess I'm looking to our old friend Diana to take it away. And, so.
I'll just say a few words to get us started. Hi, everybody. My name is Diana Sweet. I am a Vice President in EDC's Government and Community Relations Division. And Alice and we're here tonight to present on the Seaport Coastal Resiliency Project. This project really kicked off in earnest back in June. Some of you may have come to our kickoff open house. Then we came to the LMCR quarterly in July. We were able to sneak in such a long agenda every LMCR quarterly. So we snuck in, you know, a high level status update as you get at the LMCR quarterlies, but there really was an interest in a more in-depth presentation on Seaport Coastal Resiliency. And on top of that, there were some specific questions and concerns. So we committed to coming back for a more substantive presentation on Seaport Coastal Resiliency, which we have prepared tonight. And we also set up a workshop and directly in response to those questions and concerns we had heard so far. We did that in August. We had a great turnout. People were really happy with the workshop. I think a lot of things were addressed in that. So this evening, we have some content from going back to our kickoff to really give a high level overview of the project itself. We have content from our workshop that I think was really helpful. And we also have some updates on where we've been since then. So we'll present all of that tonight, and that will set all of you up really well for when we come back next month for the next LMCR quarterly and get everybody up to speed. And we're here almost this entire row in Seaport Coastal Resiliency, and we also have see across the ways.
Are you all allowed to be in the same room together?
Whoever gets up to speak or present, please introduce yourselves and which of the many agencies you're.
So I'll start and I'll work on projecting. Please let me know if you can't hear me. That's not my strong suit. Oh, could I sit there?
Please do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, makes me a little more comfortable. Okay. So thank you for inviting us back and for hearing us and coming to the workshop and the participation has been amazing. And we're hoping to continue it. Tammy, do I ask you to like go forward? Like, please, sure. So myself,
Do you want to use the remote? Not 100% if it's turned on, but we'll find out in a second.
So in the meantime, my name is Elizabeth Thompson. I work with AECOM. I am the project manager for this project for the Seaport. Judy is from our public realm lead, and Ryan is Walsh from FHI. The three of us will be presenting tonight. What do I just?
Middle button.
We're looking to provide a project overview, let you know where we are, give you our progress, and hear your feedback, hear your thoughts, and really work together as we go forward. So in the front of mind is a Seaport as it stands today, with the understanding that this is a unique neighborhood with its own distinct characteristics that we are been tasked with preserving and protecting. As part of our core team, we do have a historian and archaeologist who help guide us and often give input and steer us in ways so that it's always front of mind. So I just want to mention that. So why is the Seaport being protected? I don't feel I need to tell you, but I will repeat myself often today that we are protecting the Seaport as a vulnerable neighborhood that is a low-lying area. That is, studies have shown that sea level will rise and will be flooding. I think there'll be what we call is frequent. We're expecting it as early as the 2050s and could be sooner. So it's been identified as a need to come in and prevent the tidal flooding and to protect the neighborhood. So giving context of the seaport, I think something we've heard as we've come here before and just overall is where does the seaport fit in the lower Manhattan coastal resilience? Where does it fit in association with the FIDI? So we want to try to address that to the best that we can. It is south of BMCR, it is to the west of the FIDI, and it stands as its own project. Okay, so what is the coastal resilience? Again, I fear this will be repetitive, but it really is what we are. It's for tidal flooding of 2100, and it is to address the low-lying area of the project by bringing the waterfront elevation to 11 feet above sea level. It will also demo and reconstruct the Newmarket Pier to a level of protection as well. And it will tie back into the inland so that we have a closed unit project, right? An independent utility. It is funded, or we have funding for design and construction, where then our neighbor of the FIDI is still in the study phases and is looking to be for the storm surge of 2100, where again, the seaport is tidal flooding. So those we're going to get into the distinct differences of those, but important to note. So the purpose of our project, again, is to protect the seaport and for the future flooding, given the sea level rise that's expected. It's important to note that these purposes and needs is what our FEMA grant is based on and what our RFP was delegated to us. So we're taking this opportunity to enhance the neighborhood while we also protect it. So I like to say placemaking and engineering are going to come together and provide protection as well as something nice for the neighborhood. So again, where does the FIDI sit with the seaport? I find this slide, we have worked extensively on it, and I think we've finally driven home something that we can really speak to. I think it does a very good job of showing the existing elevation of 6. This is only the waterfront. Demonstrates that our project is only going up to the existing bulkhead. We're not doing anything into the water. The seaport will be raising up to a DFE of 11 around at the waterfront, right? So the orange that you see on the left of the screen is to be determined. That is something that as the community and stakeholders will get evaluated, and we'll have workshops and feedback, and we'll talk more about how that happens later. So that this is just an illustration to demonstrate the 5-foot increase that's going to be needed to get there. Universal design and access will all be part of our final design. This is, again, that the tidal flooding and the near-term storm surge is supposed to be at a elevation 11. And this project means to get us there. From there, you'll see like a light orange, like a tangerine, almost creamsicle, that brings that as representative of the FIDI and the future. So it builds out, and what our project will do is allow them to set up the FIDI to achieve their 24. That also is nothing to be determined. It will be a different study and not our project, but we're setting them up for success. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Ryan. Would you like to click her?
Sure. So Ryan Walsh with FHI Studio, part of the consultant team. We're task lead on community engagement. So I'm going to recap our previous engagement activity, the workshop, and then talk about some community engagement updates. So as Diana previewed earlier, back on a beautiful day in mid-August, we held a workshop, very well attended, about 45 attendees, including 5 city agencies, members of Community Board 1, representatives of elected officials, Seaport Museum, Seaport Coalition, were all in attendance. We walked the study area, stopping at key points to talk about opportunities, challenges, what was important about those locations, really get a feel for not only the project area, but what makes the seaport special and what needs to be protected. Blocked on this screen here, but the presentation materials, the materials that we used during that workshop are up on the project website. I encourage everybody to go check them out. few slides on some key things that we heard along the way. So in regard to flooding and the water table, there were concerns about groundwater flooding mitigation and questions about the level of storm surge protection that our project would provide, given that it is focused on tidal flooding. There were community concerns about various assets and aspects of the neighborhood, protection and improvement for Imagination Playground. We spent a good amount of time talking about the playground and really understand the value of that playground to the local community. My kids have played there. Also the condition of trees around Titanic Memorial. There were questions about Pier 16 and Newmarket Pier, and how the project would be integrated into the public realm. Questions about construction and design, how the project construction would impact the historic buildings, what the width of the flood protection measure would look like, or how it would be manifest in the project area, what construction would look like, the duration, staging, and how this project will be integrated with other coastal resiliency projects. And then as we walked, a lot of other topics came up, things like emergency vehicle access, ferry operations, coordination with other community projects, including Coffee Park, and a lot of discussion about things that folks would like to see as the project continues. I'm going to spend a couple of slides answering some questions that we've heard during the workshop and elsewhere. So how is this project going to address sustainability? The project is targeting both Envision and WEDGE certifications. These are points-based certification schemes. Envision is focused on sustainability for infrastructure, and WEDGE is focused on sustainability and waterfront projects. These are not new certifications for New York City. They are sort of industry standards. Envision's pursued in the Lower Manhattan Coastal Resilience Battery Project. WEDGE, I believe, has been obtained for the South Battery Park City Wagner Park project, and ESCR is pursuing both of these certifications. If anyone is familiar with LEED, these schemes are like LEED for infrastructure and waterfront projects. So you obtain points by fulfilling certain criteria. For Envision, you focus on quality of life and resource allocation, the natural world, climate resilience. And then for WEDGE, as a waterfront criteria, you focus on things like community access and connections, as well as the resiliency and sustainability of that waterfront. It's also come up, how will the project align with EDC's Clean and Circular Design and Construction Guidelines? We're well aware of these guidelines and we'll incorporate things like reusing and recycling concrete and soil, using low carbon building materials, and exploring options to reuse existing pavement and other existing materials in project area. So how is this project being coordinated? We are not working in a vacuum. The project team, the consultants along with EDC, we have bi-weekly meetings with key agencies involved in the review of the project. We have monthly meetings with FEMA. We've been having meetings on an as-needed basis with a wide range of local, city, and state agencies. And then, of course, we're working with the local community, as we're doing here through CV1. And a little bit later in the presentation, we'll talk about some upcoming community engagement opportunities. So some questions that have come up repeatedly, including on the workshop. Will this project protect Pier 16? So Pier 16 is outside of the scope of this project, but it is within the scope of the FIDI and Seaport Climate Resilience Master Plan and will be covered through that project. Newmarket Pier, our project, or this project, will include the demolition and reconstruction of the Newmarket Pier, but the structure only, no programming. So it'll replace the structure to the design flood elevation of protection. And then Imagination Playground, we have really heard you about the importance of that playground, and the project team is studying options to protect that existing playground. And I will now turn it to you. Becca.
I get to give it back to,
That's just for the past, sorry.
Sure.
Just the back one.
go back one.
And it doesn't say anything about Pier 15. In here.
Also, I was spelled the same answer as Pier 16.
Yeah. But yeah, we can. May I?
Here's a-
Okay, so flood alignment update. So we've divided the project, or we're speaking to it in terms of the inland and the historic district and narrow streets and all the things that make that character come up, and the waterfront. As a design, we're looking at it as one unit, but as we talk through things, it becomes easier to just cite in waterfront. Sorry, I talk with my hands, so I can put this thing down.
Go back, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Give us a little more time.
I just don't know if I processed it.
Sure. So we're talking about, we've divided the project into inland and waterfront. And so as we walk through the alignment, we'll talk specifically about the inland portions, which is obviously the pink and the inland, which is like the distinct pavers and the historic buildings and the programmable space.
Inland streets.
Yeah.
And then the waterfront is clearly what you see that's closest to the water. And it's just a way for us to have an easy reference to what the different zones that we're talking about.
As a project, we're looking at it as a holistic unit, right? But it just makes it easier for conversation to have it broken up.
Better than the beaches, yeah.
Well, we listening side is, we're trying. We're trying to hear and work as a team. Okay, so just being cognizant of the existing inland conditions and what the materials are that are out there and things that are important to the community. Including like the cobble and just the pavements. I just want to mention that a lot of our team is either working or has worked on Dumbo or in the meatpacking district, and are very aware and ingrained in the importance of things that may seem minor, but that are very defining of the character and where we are. Similarly, we talk about the Jerry Driscoll Walk, that is something we're interested in hearing how you would like to preserve, and preserving these things is very much part of our public realms team, as well as sustainability and just being aware of what is there and how we can work it into the design and be respectful. Judy, I'm sorry, anything do you want to add?
I think you said it all. Thank you.
So this is our flood alignment snapshot of our key considerations and constraints that we're seeing. This is not taken in any particular place. If anything, it's trying to just hone in on something that we've discovered is, as anyone would know, if you walk down Water Street and looked into where they're built, where they're doing construction, there's vast amount of utilities, there's steam, there's oil-o-static on Fulton, there's a subway, there's many things that we're contending with on the low grade. And then there's many things that we're looking at above grade as far as the pedestrian circulation, ADA access, just the heights of the historic building and that character, where the windows are, where there's under sidewalk vaults, narrow sidewalks, and just building entrances are part of the constraints that we're looking through and have been evaluating. On the waterfront, it's very similar as far as the subsurface and the utilities. There is the FDR, so we do have vertical height constraints to make sure that if we're going to be changing grade, that we still need to maintain that. We need to maintain the pedestrian crossing and circulation. We need to basically maintain South Street and the Esplanade as it is, but protect it. So those are some of our challenges. The existing topography, as many of you know, is very shallow in this area. It does have this bathtub effect. At the waterfront, it's about 6, goes down to 4, and then comes up around Water Street to around 10 or 11, which is where our tie-in is. And we're really looking at this. I think there's a very nice depiction at the bottom that just shows how the water will come in and sort of stay there. So this is what we're working with. And one of our constraints is that low 4-foot elevation. Getting that to 11 is a challenge. So unveiling, we have studied this alignment, given those constraints, given the purpose and need that the project is to protect the neighborhood. And we've evaluated, I would like to say we've also done our due diligence. We received an alignment from the FEMA grant. We received this alignment from the RFP, but we've still worked with EDC to evaluate if that is the best alignment. We've looked at going further south. We've looked at going up and around. We've looked at different tie-ins. Each of these provided a constraint. We have a slide that goes into that in the appendix if there's further questions. But we've really done a lot of studies on how to get it up and over with the least amount of impacts. So this is.
So just to clarify, this has been, each of these alignments have been evaluated for feasibility. This isn't the current alignment. So these are all the ones we've explored.
This is our study.
Yeah.
I didn't know, I'll ask later, sorry.
You sure?
Yeah, no, I don't want to break my own rule that I usually said, which is no questions until you're done.
But it's, and then we'll have to come back.
It's okay. She said yes. Okay, well, nobody else could do this. Wait a minute. I just want to know, it's a graphic question. The tie-in point, could you just tell us what it is that we're looking at, that you have it?
I think the next slide, so that's why you hold your own rule.
There you go.
So the height of,
Deployables.
okay, the height of intervention is really the simple math of how do we get to 11 with the existing topography? So what is the difference between an 11 and say 11, 0? So at the tie-in, we're looking for where the existing elevation is 11. So where do those two meet? And as you get up and around the alignment and through the neighborhood, we're tying in where the existing is 11.
No, I understand what a tie-in is, I'm sorry. There's nothing that is actually physical, it's just at the end point of your floodplain.
It's where it flows flush with these.
Physical circles, so it's like, and then you have these little rectangles that are indicating deployables.
Yeah.
This is, you're shaking your head, that's not accurate. Can you go back one?
Oh, well, I think we're gonna get further. to
Okay,
what
okay,
the-
you're gonna describe
If you
it.
don't mind. Yeah, that's
Okay,
gonna
I
be
won't
Judy's
ask any
slide.
more questions.
All right, so now I remember we're seeing this one, but our preliminary flood alignment, this to Judy's point, those were studies. This is our conceptual alignment as it stands now based on feasibility that is being worked out and talked through with different agencies and stakeholders. Let me go a little bit further. So going along the what are we calling this?
Inlet.
The inlet, thank you.
Which one?
Yes, Steve.
So we're definitely proposing, like I said, there's nothing definitive here. There's some nuances to be worked out. The tie-in is around the Titanic Memorial. We will need to be figuring out what that looks like. But the feasibility is to have the tie-in in that area and to raise, where you see the deployables, that is what we are raising the roadway to an 8.5-foot elevation. So it's anywhere from 1.5 to 3.5 feet of raised grade with a deployable that would reach the 11-foot protection.
So like something that is deployed in the instance that we would need it to be at 11. So the street would be at like 8.5, just you driving over it every day. But in the event of a tidal flooding event, there is something, it's a thing that comes up in some way. It could be the flip-up gates like we have in BMCR or some other type of gate that comes across to have that 11, to make 11 foot. Deployable is just a general term for something that is actively deployed when there's a need. Yeah. I want to make sure those words, I did a little more detail.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Yeah, I think it's that, we're not there.
Yeah, we're not there on the detail.
Thank you. And I think it's important to, what you just said is that we're looking at a passive protection for the immediate term, and the deployable would be deployed when needed in the future. I'm gonna go forward. So the waterfront we're showing here, similar to the inland that I did mention there, this is 2 alignments. We're looking into what is feasible of going in front of the tin building and having deployables there, or having wing wall on either side that would protect as the tin building is already at the proper elevation. So these are things that are being evaluated further, but both have been deemed feasible. We also have a tie-in up the the Brooklyn Bridge ramp where it meets the existing grade of 11. The reason that was chosen was, again, as you're raising to cross South Street, there is a vertical clearance under the FDR that needs to be maintained. I think Judy, would you like to talk about how we set back to maintain access?
Before you do that, could you back up one slide just again?
Oh, sorry, I went the wrong way. Yeah.
I just want to
Spoiler.
compare the two. Okay, all right, I understand. Thank you.
Should we go forward?
For the waterfront, okay.
Yeah, I
And
think
then-
that's cool.
Yeah, we just want to note that for the waterfront, we're going out as far as possible on top of the existing bulkhead to maximize access to the water so we can get as much space, protected space as we can.
Right, I think there's an awareness of, we've heard about access to the beach, and so that's front of mind as we're evaluating and designing in this area. Right? Yeah, we're trying to hear it all. So I think with that, Judy, I'll hand it to you to show where the placemaking comes
Okay,
together.
sure. So we've just talked about the flood alignment and the infrastructure itself. The other component of this is the placemaking. So that we'll have something multi-purpose. What this means is that wherever you have flood infrastructure, there'll never just be the raw flood infrastructure. There'll be some placemaking component or consideration. And then what does that mean when we say placemaking? What does that look like? So this is a catalog of placemaking tool. We're calling it a toolkit. So these are different typologies that we thought of that are specific to the Seaport District. And how it's working is it's showing how the placemaking overlays on top of the flood infrastructure, which is represented by the little upside down orange T. And you'll see that we're going from, we've kind of categorized it from wide to narrow and then short to tall. So thinking about how much horizontal space we have, where you have a lot of like a wide swath space, then we're able to have, we have a little bit more freedom in what we can do. Where it's more narrow, we're kind of more limited, but we're also always going to think about how that can contribute to placemaking. So it'll never just be the barrier. And then how does that work from, for the different heights from short to tall? And that's also like calibrated. So for instance, throughout the alignment, we'll consider what are appropriate places to put, say, elevated plazas, raised esplanades, benches, and then planters in various formats. So we're still at the initial stages of public realm design. So this is sort of a taste of what's to come to get you, familiar with the language that we're using. And then I think the next time that we see, we'll have more to like share in terms of specific placemaking measures. So this is the flood infrastructure toolkit that we have. This is sort of misnamed. Our components are the passive components of the flood barrier, simple raised grade, which we're using at the street crossings. And then the types of deployables are being considered are flip-up gates, roller gates, and swing gates, which we're using where we can't simply use the passive measures for whatever reason. Either we don't have enough room to fill, we're limited by height, or we have to directly cross the alignment either for vehicular access or pedestrian. So that sums up the flood, sort of the alignment update. Where, as I said, we're starting to work on, we're sort of in the middle of working through public and placemaking measures. And so we'll have more to share for that. This is a sort of snapshot of what we've been involved in for the summer and fall. We're looking at, we've been basically doing a survey, collecting drawings, kind of doing a data analysis, and then working through the preliminary alignment feasibilities that you saw, the preliminary alignment that you saw, and determining which ones are feasible. At the same time, we're coordinating with 8 different agencies, both city, state, federal. And at the point that we are, we're kicking off schematic design and then starting the public art process, which will be, which is represented by CP1, is represented. And I think the first step is
Well, we have to kick it off, and yeah, we'll have a panel kickoff meeting, and then an RFP will go out, the request for artist. I think there's definitely community engagement as far as that goes, as there's on the panel, the community stakeholders that'll be part of it, as well as agencies. So that's our percent for art. It's a pretty strict process, standard throughout the city, so we'll just be following that.
Is there,
Are you done?
No, we
Oh,
have
okay.
one more time.
Oh. I mean, am I missing, I'm sorry, is there more, those are all the plans that we're seeing today? Okay.
Well, that's all the plans we're seeing today.
And then, yeah, and just to, talk about where we are in the design process, we won't be going to PDC until next spring after our next community workshop. So to, clarify that.
You saw that coming.
Yeah. But I think, can you just click forward, because I think it's important to see how this.
Yes.
Yes, so upcoming community outreach, we'll be back before you in November as part of the LNCR quarterly update. I see folks taking pictures of the slides. These slides are already up on the website. You can feel free to grab them and review it if you do. Around that time, we're also going to have a fact sheet newsletter to provide a broad-based update for the community to help prepare for the next community workshop, which is now tentatively in early December, where we'll be presenting these alignment updates and having really hands-on workshop activities about the public realm. We'll be back again in December, January to report on what we heard in that workshop. And then come spring 2025, we'll hold more walking tours, we'll have pop-up events and have a third community meeting in spring.
Going forward, just a general comment, if you could really be a little more specific as to what these meetings would show. Because I think that's, I'm a little confused. I don't know that I've seen anything very different, but maybe it's just, my memory. But it would be helpful to know that like in December, when you say alignment updates, precisely, what will be included? Will there be some placemaking? I think the community, I certainly know I personally am really thirsty to know, what does it look like? What are these things in 3D? We say this all the time, but you have to be a genius to try to figure out what exactly you're talking about with the brown squares and circles. Respectfully, I mean, it's a tremendous project, I get it, but I think at this stage, whatever you can give us that's a little bit more formed would be helpful if you're looking for the community to actually really engage with you on these things. So I just would be, as you move forward in terms of your ambition to engage with us, that you kind of outline a little more specifically what exactly we might have coming down the pike. I think it would be helpful, for this committee. So so I see a lot of hands raised now. Are you now done? Can we then go to Q&A here? And could you go back, does anyone mind if well, no, that depends on anyone's question. You can pick the page you need. So, okay, I'm gonna open it to the committee members. Okay. Jeff, you're up first.
Now we can go back to some of these slides.
Okay.
So back up, keep going, okay, there, hold that one for a second and go
Okay.
back to it. So as I understand it, the alignment will be populated schematically or sort of conceptually with one or more of these little building blocks to achieve the elevation at the various points, right? Okay, so back up again, one more, and there. So basically, it's a follow-up clarifying question. So where we see that alignment, that orangish dotted line, you're basically going to populate that with something that's basically made up of those tools
You got it.
that you described. What would be helpful, both for us and I think for the community as a whole, is that along that line, if you could indicate the height of the intervention, because it's going to vary based, down to zero basically at the tie-in points, but at other places it could be those 5 or 6 feet. So it,
There's a slide that shows that, right?
Well, it doesn't have the alignment on it, I think at this point, it's the head of.
yeah, basically combine those kinds of things
Yeah.
and then do the math for us. Well, maybe the math is done, plus two,
It's
plus
done
four, plus
here,
whatever.
yeah,
So-
but you don't see the orange line.
Yeah,
I-
so,
I-
so
I
basically
appreciate the comment.
combine that. Then my question is, this would seem to impact what the FIDI Seaport Master Plan is ultimately going to need to do.
I think that's our
Oh, it's all
favorite
the way
slide,
back.
it's like
Because-
11. I have
Because it
number.
will need to achieve that 24-foot design flow.
That one, go back. One more forward.
I'm gonna.
Yes.
Here.
So you're gonna need to get an elevation of 24 to 26 feet for that.
The FIDI will.
The FIDI will, and so you're already building 11. Somehow you're gonna need to achieve this greater height. Just commonsensically, it seems that whoever is designing that ladder project will need to take account of what you are doing here.
It
And
will
there-
be their existing conditions.
Yeah, it will be their existing conditions. So I guess my question is, are you coordinating with them so that if they say, wait a minute, that screws up everything that we were about to do? Okay, all right. Thank you.
Well, we should add them to that coordination slide.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know though about the master plan work is that a lot of it is largely outboard. Like,
I understand that,
So,
and
yeah.
so maybe that 24 to 26
Yeah.
feet actually becomes lesser because of that.
But we definitely, yeah, we coordinate with that team very closely. Andrew's on our project manager from the Seaport project here, he is the CAC representative for the frequent, by the Seaport master plan work, so we, yes, we hear you. We just wanted to make sure that we had the question that will the master plans project in the far future rip up the work that we're doing now? And we
Correct.
wanted to make clear that the answer is no, that they will have to use ours existing conditions. Their work is largely outboard from the work that the Seaport project is protected in the short term.
And I think we all need to be conscious that this may be the only thing that is ever done in our lifetime, so it's got to at least achieve whatever.
Yeah, and Rob at DDC, just to, we have we're starting up regular meetings with Arcadis, who's the master plan designer right now. And to your point, I sometimes put on my Seaport hat, take off the finance for the master plan. That the master plan is not a funded project where this is. So
Right.
we have to get going with this, and then our design will inform the master plan.
So I'm gonna follow up on Jeff's, because that was my top question about the building, destroying, rebuilding, and the use of public dollars and funds. But one of the questions that I have is, if you're building to 2100, right, and they're gonna ideally be funded the 5 to 10 billion that's needed for the whole project in today's dollars, would there be no rip out of what you're talking about? Would theirs be able to be attenuated differently because this is already inland? That's not a discussion I've heard from FIDI Seaport Master Plan. And I guess I'm saying it because that's gonna be something that we wanna hear at the quarterly update, how they go together. For example, in Battery Park City, different decisions were made for the ball fields to save public dollars and reduce redundancy because they knew that the Northwest was coming. And there are conversations when everything is about dollars and cents about taking a look at that.
I think, I really like the question, but I think we should like specifically sit with the master plan team so that we can kind of clearly present the answer. I think in short, still, mostly no, because their work is largely outboard, but also the master plan work is protecting against coastal storms, whereas this project is protecting against sea level rise, inundation, and nearer term.
But we'll also protect from coastal.
But yeah,
It-
for sooner, less severe coastal storms than the master plan.
Which then puts me back to the slide of where the new market site is. And it does not, it looks like that is left out of the plan.
This way, two.
You've got the flood wall there that says that you are protecting it, but then somewhere else.
Go to the alignment.
Yeah.
I think what it is that the new market pier will be built to the proper elevation, so it's not considered the alignment
Oh, that's.
yet. It's
And
much,
can you go
the
to-
alignment's all the way down in like.
Can you put
27.
your placemaking?
Yes.
I think one of my concerns about when we're looking at this is the placemaking, which is really what I think the public and the community looks at. You know, you see the two alignment lines that you're not sure of which one it'll be. But then the question starts to be, when you're looking at these type of things here, what exactly does placemaking look like next to that? And so whether or not you could have something like this with the other slide that shows what the opportunities are, I think is far more compelling for the public to understand in general. And then you will be asked this by me 1,010 times. When you're looking at the tallest 4.5 foot to 6 foot structures with the raised esplanade, step seating, or climbable slopes, is there no opportunity to do containerized trees for shade? Shade, 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 shade. And the question is why? Why can't we have shade? Because everything is so on concrete. What kind of materiality are we looking at? Why, you know, where are the opportunities for greening and shade to reduce the overall temperatures? Because there's not a lot, and especially if the FDR Drive comes down, you'll be baking everywhere. So, and then I have two other things that I'm done.
Okay.
The art you said is a panel. Is there no opportunity to do a public vote? It's a closed panel who will screen and.
It's Kristen for art.
Yeah, so we're using the city's Percent for Art process, which is there's a voting panel of, I believe, 5 individuals. And then there are also members of the public that participate in the work, as well as the community, the agencies that are involved, the community board, other interested parties. So there's many people in the room in the conversation, and then the folks that are voting get specific feedback back from kind of the places they come from as their thing. So there'll be a member of a EDC on the panel, the EDC liaison, and we'll discuss with LPs, with landmarks. So there's a public process.
You will have a board.
Community
Yeah.
Board 1
We'll
could
have it.
put out a poll showing the options and allowing for public participation. That's a question.
No, it's not the way.
Yeah,
And then the other two things that I don't see anything on the outreach that notes a couple things. One, when the deadline is for, like, are we at 30 or are we at 60%? When will meaningful change be done? Meaning, what's the strong deadline for where people could advocate for change? And I don't see any directed outreach to, are you hosting a meeting with the Seaport Coalition in the Seaport area? Are you hosting a meeting at PS 150 for the PTA? Are you hosting a meeting at Southbridge Towers? Where are you hosting the meetings for the stakeholders who live in the zone? Or for, you know, that matter, the 7 new apartment buildings that'll be on Water Street? I mean, like, how are you getting to them? Whether it's Wendy's signage or paper flyers, hanging posters, contacts to management companies, all of that needs to be, no offense intended from the community board, on you guys.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. So yes, we plan on blanketing the community in flyers. Our first public engagement workshop was at Exlip School. That's where we're looking for our second workshop, though it
The
hasn't been
parents
confirmed
didn't
yet.
know it was there.
So
One of the things that we noticed when Catherine and I were there is that it was not vastly attended. It wasn't marketed in the school through PTAs, and I thought that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I live in the Seaport, I had no idea, unless Catherine had told me. Yeah, but
we can.
it would be a visible.
We can certainly double down on research or outreach through the PTAs. We did flyers at Bridge Towers and around the neighborhood, but certainly understand that we can improve on past performance. We would, though it is certainly on us, we would like to work with the community board on amplifying message through social media, and really requesting your help using existing networks to get the word out. But we'll also be using social media and physical presence in the neighborhood.
Just one other point on the outreach. So you said that the August, and I appreciated very much that you did a workshop. That was not publicized to the general public. I guess that was purposeful because you felt that there were going to be too many people potentially. But at some point, I think that should be offered. It was a tremendously wonderful opportunity when the Battery Park City Authority did this a couple of times, where they came with big posters and, markers, and they did several tours, and they were able to handle as many people as needed by having several of these tours. So I would recommend that. Before the snowfalls or after, but whatever.
I think they're spring.
Yeah, and I would certainly not just leave it to leadership and agencies, but really open it up to the community, because that's really who you want to hear from.
Absolutely.
So, just on that point. Okay, yes. Go ahead, Richard.
One point of clarification, because I think the question was answered, but the reason this project, sea level rise project, was separated from flood protection is because the flood protection is outboard. Is that the primary reason?
I wouldn't say that's it. No, I think if you go to the purpose and needs, this is a near-term project for an immediate need, right? So we can get to the tidal inundation that'll be coming with more frequency much sooner than 2100, right? So if we go back a little further to the very beginning, I think what's important to note, and can you hear me? Go back one more. I think this is.
No, we overshot that one.
This tells you how much the flooding is going to be, right? So the near term is our big stitching point for the 2100, right? So this project is going to provide protection at 11-foot DFE for current day coastal and for tidal flooding. The FIDI is, I think, go forward to you can go back to our.
No.
Not.
Yeah, I think
You
if
want
you
the
go
baby
one
slide?
forward, I love this slide now. Wasn't always the, we've gotten to a very good point.
Storm surge.
Correct, right? And the FIDI, the storm surge is expected to be much higher, much higher.
And the city was able to advocate to OMB, the city's also managed the budget, and the city partners and FEMA to fund this near-term project because we will start to see regular frequent flooding within the seaport very soon, much sooner than the master plan project can get fully designed, permitted, and funded.
And
So there's a specific current, very near-term need that we were able to advocate for and get funded for this project.
I think that's a great point, and something we're trying to drive home is that this is funded. And then this that we're doing of bringing it to NAV 11 is what is required by that grant, right? There's a FEMA grant that we're in compliance with.
So one more question then. This is to protect tidal flooding, tidal sea level rise generally.
Mhm.
How do deployables work in that context? I don't understand the use of deployables.
Twice a day, they do.
Yeah, I don't understand how this is part of the project.
Well, that would be part of what we're trying to get a much higher passive level of protection, because the nuances of when you're gonna deploy and if it's coming in the tide is something that we're working through.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
is that fair?
if it's tidal, I just don't see how it's part of the project solution.
No, we already.
Very important, but, go ahead.
Go ahead.
We fully agree that like, it is not super tenable to assume that these are going to be deployed
With the
every,
tide.
every
12
day.
hours.
Yeah, right, every 12 hours. We understand that.
Street gets blocked,
However,
traffic, it's like a bridge.
no, it's a huge undertaking, yeah, when we closing South Street, that's not.
It's not the plan.
So I think what we're anticipating, this is many years out that we need to be deploying it on a regular basis. The city will have come much further in regards to much of the
coastal resiliency scope and work. But, you know, if we still want to achieve the 2100, this 11, because also in the near term, maybe before the city needs, protection against tidal flooding in such frequency as demonstrated on the other slide, there's a smaller level coastal storm that these deployables are effective in protecting the neighborhood. So, and we have what those kind of storm sizes are, but so in that near term, we're not doing daily tidal protection, but we are doing the one-off for a smaller coastal storm. Similarly to when they deployed the interim flood protection down at the seaport for Isaias, right? So with the Isaias type situation, we have the deployables, we're protecting the neighborhood from that level storm.
Can I add
Yeah,
one thing,
please.
if I may? We are gonna protect passively the almost 40, 50 years out. So the deployables will not be needed for tidal flooding till 2075, 2080. We're raising the grade, so you have passive protection against tidal flooding. And way in the future is we may need the deployables for tidal. And to Catherine's point, the deployables are now put in now, because if you have a 10-year storm or some storm into today or tomorrow or next week, you can deploy these because the BNCR then gates will be deployed, so you deploy them at the same time. But those will be individual events for a coastal big storm, but for tidal, you will not need them.
And that's 27, 2080, is that the time frame you think?
2080.
2080 roughly is the level of protection passively where you don't need to deploy.
Right, and we're only proposing deployables at the roadway crossings.
Hopefully by
more
then,
specific.
by that time, we'll be on its
Yeah.
way.
I was afraid.
Well, from your lips, actually.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on that. 'Cause You're looking to move it up 6 feet, right? You said some places were 2, there's a dip, and then there's 6. So one thing I was thinking was, are you creating these walls and keeping the water in the dip? But the other thing is, how much can you raise? You have all these buildings. How much are you actually raising if you're saying it's going to be rise, not flooded? I live on the ground floor, it comes through, but.
So the protection is along the seawall. Basically, you're raising the
Yeah.
bottom.
This
The grades.
Can you?
Right, but over time, you gotta keep, I think that's where I was like, you gotta keep that going forever, it's like living on an island. Because you, whenever you take it down.
We are recognizing that outside of where it's protected, that yes, that is at risk. Yes, outside of where it's protected is at risk. However,
Which means you can never bring the wall down, or you can never bring the deployable down, because then you'll leave water in. That is how I read it.
perhaps in 2028, 2028.
Why does
Right.
And
it doesn't go.
Open it up.
But that-
Yeah. No, the master plan project.
Yeah, but that doesn't get you this part, that gets you up there.
No.
That's what it gets much higher.
Slide 9.
slide 9.
The master plan goes from the Brooklyn Bridge to the Coast Guard.
That's.
Rosa.
Going back to slide 9.
I'm trying to go back to 9.
They're short.
Is it shortcut?
Probably the mouse.
Probably the,
I can run up.
but I
Here,
appreciate.
let me make your life much easier.
Wait, I'm almost to 9.
You're almost there.
This one?
No,
Well, 9 is that way, but this one, right?
I
Yeah.
think answers your question.
I think the plan,
Sometimes you got it, but I
that's
wasn't
the plan up that shows the five.
Yeah, the whole
back to
view.
This one?
The flood
Thank
line.
you.
reading.
No, the flood line.
Okay.
Yes,
that one.
We call her iconic.
So the 5i is the green line that gives you protection for that whole area, including the seaport. Does that answer? That will protect against coastal and tidal. Will be the ultimate. What's it called?
Does that mean you're doing work in this area now, and then you're gonna do work on it again? when you
It's
get more money?
outboard of it. It's into the water. It's into the water.
Yeah.
It's outboard of it.
But I think we are tied to what you're saying is our alignment is meeting back to 11 along Water Street.
Yeah.
So we do come inland and tie in, and then anything south to that, if Catherine's saying that is a future dates project. Right, this is vulnerable, this got funding, as an immediate need. And I would venture to say that it'll continue to look for immediate needs.
And I would point out too that the Seaport area was also funded and identified as an immediate need because of that bowl effect that you see. The rest of the area, I don't know the geography explicitly, but it doesn't have that level of the bowl that you have within the Seaport neighborhood, there, that dip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's historic. You
Yeah.
really don't want this area to get destroyed or put water into. Yeah.
And you'll be adding pumping presumably to pump out that bowl?
Yes.
So we will be looking at the interior drainage. What that entails is TBD.
Entails,
Will be determined at a later date.
is it part of the project?
Yes.
We are, yes.
And that's funded as part of this?
Have you started to talk about that yet?
Yeah.
We've started to collect and collaborate with the FIDI and to get the models, and we're working with DEP. We're very early on.
No, for the, here, let's just call it for the drainage solution within this project, right?
Do we?
Yeah.
It's a
Without
yes.
drainage solution.
Okay, wait a second. I got a lot of hands wagging and, okay. Which one you want to finish up? Go ahead.
For me, this is actually work. Like we're talking about these laws and disposals and drainage. Is there anywhere I could go look? I mean, it's a reasonable idea, but I'm curious. What's a wall?
I mean, within Laurel County, there's a number of private businesses that have small deployables that the private business puts up for certain storms. There's other ones similar. I don't know.
Like in a
You
city
have some
level?
other-
Yeah, so.
NYU,
That's right.
So the easiest way to sort of understand this is that projects like these haven't really happened in the world yet. We have not gotten into circumstances where we have a city that is picking up sea level rise and we gotta do something about it. So what we're doing is we're picking up technologies that have been used elsewhere, for example, Texas or New Orleans. We're retrofitting them to fit within that fabric and introducing placemaking alongside it, which is something that is pretty forward thinking that other places in the world have not done. They've always looked at this as utility and raw infrastructure. And New Yorkers will never just get it. So we're.
Right. But like these deployables,
They
like pop
have
up,
been, yes.
is the
we-
water gonna seep through, like,
Yeah.
you know how like the tunnel kind of leaks the other day?
Yeah, I mean, but there are, we can provide you with websites or images of, you can actually see the raw infrastructure at work. So you can kind of get a sense of how
I'd
they
love
work.
to.
Yeah.
and we've actually load tested these gates. They're being installed. There's one at NYU actually that's already in place for years. We're installing them for BMCR, we're installing them at South Barry, and we load tested a model, the full-scale model was built and flooded the gate. And the gate had to retain it with a certain loading, so we have that documented from the manufacturer.
Videos.
Yeah.
Fabricating.
There are videos.
Yeah, the public,
Yeah, probably
right.
share those.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely, there's a lot of people doing it.
Texas, I think.
Did you want to finish your thought? Okay, I had a few questions. I am very curious about the tieback situation that you're going to do with BMCR. I see that you're actually going to connect to it, closer to the water's edge, but are you still retaining the tieback that connects into the off-ramp
Yes.
situation and why?
So the answer is yes. We are looking to have, what we call independent utility.
What?
Independent utility. So the project will stand on its own. If there was anything, God forbid, with BMCR, this project would stand on its own.
Got you.
If BMCR was an existing condition, it might be something different, but it is in construction. So our project will move forward with it as an independent project.
Okay, then the other question that I had was, are you looking at integrating, flood protection measures for like cloudburst events? So essentially, this is becoming a wall that protects water coming in from the East River. What about the water that's coming from above, and how are you addressing that? Because then essentially we're blocked off from draining out.
Right.
And those storms seem to be getting rougher.
Right,
More frequent, also just more intensity within a really, really short period of time, which is what creates a flooding effect in our streets.
Absolutely, and we are looking at it. We have a hydrology study. Did you?
Yeah, it's subject to the interior drainage studies that
Yeah.
we're going through now. Now, it doesn't handle cloudbursts, but there's a city criteria as to what storms you really need to design to. So those definitely are being accounted for. You still have protections that will get your water out into the outfalls, will convey that water, so it's not, we're gonna accommodate as much volume as possible. But
Okay.
that's part of
It
the
is part of our
studies that we're going through right now.
Okay, and then piggybacking on a comment actually that Tammy had, I was curious about whether or not, where you're building up at the barrier, especially where it's going to like 6 feet, are you integrating some sort of like stormwater retention in some of those areas? Like, is there?
We're evaluating. Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah, we're looking into green infrastructure implications and where we can apply. Where we can apply, we will apply.
The other thing was, where is the public art going to be?
That'll be evaluated with the panel and as part of the process, right? We'll identify some locations based on maintenance and ownership. And then from there, that'll get flushed out with the panel and the artist. We don't know what the artwork is yet. It's very open, very broad. It could be anything really.
And what's the approximate budget?
900.
Sorry.
It's the max. I believe it's 900. 900,000.
And then I was also wondering if, part of the sort of community engagement or, sharing of information, have you looked at something like a Bloomberg Connects? Or like people like to just go on QR code, learn more, basically get a walkthrough with one of our experts, one of you experts that are sitting here, and learn more about what is going on in the community, you know, in a time that is convenient for them when they happen to be there, rather than forcing them to come to, I mean, we welcome them at CD1, but our room's a little small. I'm wondering if that's something that you could integrate, especially given that like we have the MCR going on, we have the battery going in.
It's okay.
I mean, there's a lot of fenced space that may be looking for streaming for some sort of activation, where if we could integrate education along with it, I think that would be really helpful. Then the last question is, so I think you may have answered it, but the answer worries me, which is that, so this is standalone going to protect the Seaport area. The MCR obviously is to the north, the battery is doing the battery. In between, there's like a really big hole with zero protection.
Do you mean, what was that, slide 9?
Yes, that is the area.
That's
Or it's not
the
a
view, right?
public
It's
project.
part of the FIDI.
Right, right.
So
If there's flooding that does happen, anytime between now and whenever FIDI Seaport, gets implemented.
It's like North Rebecca.
Then, yeah, except for that, this is like
the
right
case
at the
for
mouth.
This neighborhood and for many other neighborhoods around the city, that yes, in the near term, there will be tidal flooding. The city is working to address that across in every neighborhood. So as you know, in Lower Manhattan here, though, we have the interim flood protection work that emergency management put up. There are opportunities for them to deploy the Tiger Gates for smaller storms like Isaias. I mean, that is part of the city's. I'm sorry?
Do they have like a YouTube or a video?
It might, so he might have done a video, like recap after the deployment, and then for the practice deployment, like they practice on the Red Hook interim flood protection, it might be on our emergency management website, I'm not sure, but we'll.
They do, and we've actually had them give two presentations over the last
Yeah, I'm
year.
sure there's.
So we have them on.
No,
Great. I'm not saying that you weren't there. I'm just saying that they're on our YouTube. Oh, great. You may look.
Wonderful.
We have a couple of deployment measures if that.
Is that in the back?
Yeah, examples.
So,
Is there anything else on this slide?
While you're on the slide.
Thank you. Okay, wait a minute. I promised all the committee members, so Wendy was next, then Catherine, and then we'll open it up. Yeah.
So I have a couple of things. So, protecting imagination playground. I just want to be very, that is top of mind for the neighborhood. And I will just say, I'm really glad to see that that's being considered and I hope it's approved. I will say that, not approving that would be very disappointing to, many, many people in the community would be outraged. If it's not protected. So that's first thing. Rosa touched on the teachable moment. I'm all about the teachable moment. We don't have to get into that, but there's lots of teachable moments here. I'll let you guys figure that out, but don't waste your teachable moment on multiple levels, including our school children. They need hope. They need to see adults are doing things to worry about their future because they're very, despondent about their future. The New Market Pier, I'm glad you're building it up. One of the things that we learned on Pier 25 and Pier 26 is that when it got built, that slab got built. That was not so great. And they've had to, like, after Hurricane Sandy, they had to redo all the infrastructure. And then the other thing is that the people coming in from the water side of it didn't feel like those piers were built right. So I don't know what that means, but I will just say that don't think Pier 25 and 26, those are teachable moments as well. So do a better job building the slab before you pour all the cement. How deep are the footers that you're doing? Because one of the things that we learned during Hurricane Sandy is what came under, which you all know, before, or in some cases, before it actually came above ground. So how deep are you going? Is that, I mean, is this type of project like the Battery Park project that would basically goes way deep? Are you doing that same type of thing, or is it not as deep, or how does that work? Or do you not know yet? Because how deep you go underground, this is all fill. This is not bedrock under there, is my understanding. That leaning building, whatever that building is in Bidai Seaport, they didn't build the footers deep enough, so the building's under litigation.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that all this stuff underground is really tricky in this area. So I don't know the answer, but I will want to know the next time you come in. I will ask that question again. Money is going to be very tight in the future, not just for New York City, but the whole world, and our children are worried about that too. So my personal ask is to make things as passive as possible. We are not in agreement on this committee. Some people will say build it as low as possible. I will say, could you make it as passive as possible? Because our country is going to have a very hard time paying the bills in the future. It's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So my ask is to make it as passive as possible. And I definitely echo Tammy's sentiment. If you can't put trees in it, build shade a different way. And I will also say that if you can make it as multi-purpose as possible, and planters, we saw it there, those are great for lots of things. You could say to a neighborhood or to a school like Peckslip, you could have, gardens, or you could have some other things that's like a pro and a con, and including on the playground, the wonderful work that they do in the Battery of all the community gardens. You could do something like that. If you're building that around the Imagine playground, you could actually have, community gardens, and kids love that kind of stuff. So anyways, that's it's been more of a speech than a question.
That was great.
That's great.
No, very good. Okay, anybody else on the committee or online? Okay, so Catherine, and then you had your hand raised.
Gary.
Gary, right. You want to go first?
No, go ahead.
I think it was slide 8, the general map.
I'm not significantly faster.
Okay.
Sorry. No, I appreciate
The
it.
big U, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So for the interim flood protection plan, which is listed under LMCR website, it's supposed to last about 5 to 7 years. And the 5 to 7 years is like pretty much over. And it only went within Community Board 1 from Brooklyn Bridge to Wall Street. Yeah, so basically Wall Street down to the Battery is completely exposed. I just want to make sure everybody understands that in this room. There's zero protection. So it's your building. It's up to you to protect it. There are no deployables by the city, state, or federal government. south of Wall Street around to the Battery.
For real estate, but infrastructure like subways and tunnels have all been treated.
Yeah, there are roughly 300, manholes that Con Edison dealt with and, the MTA and whatnot.
But not the drainage system and the sewers.
I don't know the status of the sewers, but I think a lot of that still has to be done. I'm just talking about if there is, it's been 12 years, this October 29th from Superstorm Sandy. There is no interim flood protection from Wall Street down to the Battery. And if we could go to the slide where the, deployables are, I just wanted to make sure I understand. It might have been 29.
It's further down, yeah, like 30,
Approximately.
way further.
32. Because.
Before this.
I think 29. Approximately, not that deployable, but we're, okay, right here. So how many deployables are there within this? What is it? 6 block by 4 block area? So there are 6 deployables, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so.
One potentially.
Potentially.
Potentially 6. It might be 4.
And it might be 4. And the person who's going to be responsible for that was here at your last meeting, the deputy mayor from, deputy commissioner from DEP. So she will be responsible for deploying that in every other deployable around the city. Is there anything that we have learned from the escrow project, which is much further along, the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Plan, that is not being considered here or is being considered because of what we've learned further north?
You mean specifically related to the deployables?
Yeah, like the deployables and.
I think I'll start a little bit with Antoine. I would say I think the deployables considered here are typically very similar to the ones that are being installed for Esker, the flip up. Well, there's no flip ups in Esker. There's only sliders. There's only sliders and rollers and swings in Esker. So we're looking at all of those. In regards to like explicit specific design pieces, these gates, these deployables for this project, much smaller. Much smaller.
2.5 feet high.
Yeah.
Is what we're looking at right now.
So I'm not sure if there's other
there'd be-
technologies that, go ahead.
To extend the 8.5 asset level to 11, just so that we can meet the FEMA requirement. So they're very small gates. And that, like Gonzalo mentioned, that has been used pretty much in a lot of places outside of New York, now even in New York. But that's, the smaller ones are deployed pretty much around many buildings down in the south. The manufacturer of flood break is based in Texas, and they've used them multiple locations. You can go on their website and see all the places.
Is there any that would a little closer than Texas?
They're closer than Texas. We have. What?
The manufacturer.
Oh, the manufacturer.
Is there anything closer than Texas?
Well, there's, Walton Fencer is up in Connecticut, but it's a competitive.
I would argue that we should be bidding closer to home for environmental reasons, transporting and all that kind of stuff. That factor, and then I would not like to buy a lot of stuff in
Wait, Paul, are you done to in regards to?
Okay,
Okay, question.
Okay.
And so, the Esker gates, some of those are coming essentially online now or being like,
Yeah.
being turned over to Lorian's team at DEP. And so they are, as they begin to learn about the operations, this team will take into account those lessons especially as they are built and they can practice, and we can learn things to be iterated into the Seaport project. But again, the ones for this project we're here for today are much, much smaller. But I think the smaller gates give us more opportunity for the placemaking. They can be kind of hidden a little bit better, right? Like, because they're so much smaller.
And,
Well, that's a good one.
okay, so thanks so much. And then my last question was, it appears, and I really want to thank everybody who's worked on it. It appears that the Imagination Playground will be protected, if I understood, I think it was slide 11, that will be south of the Imagination Playground. But the alignment wall will go up Fulton Street for a block, so there'll be, so it looks like the alignment will be now on John Street, and then it will go in the middle there at the
Front.
pedestrian way, and then it will be like a 4-foot wall maybe on Fulton Street in the middle of the pedestrian area. Is that
That's Front Street.
front? No.
Well,
and then Fulton.
No,
Yeah.
it's this here, that one, and then Fulton North.
Fulton.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
it's roughly a 5-foot wall in the middle of the pedestrian area.
Of Water Street.
No.
No.
Fulton Street, next to what was,
Yeah. That's it.
right, so that's roughly 4 to 5 feet, like that bench in the middle of the.
How does that work in the historic district, I guess, is the question.
That's why we were working very closely with
Yeah,
LPC and with SHPO.
Yeah.
State Historic Preservation. So those toolkits you see, and we totally hear you that when we come back, you need to like see it in place. So I think we will be able to find that. And I don't know, will the
So we're-
alignment within Fulton be as high as 4 feet, or will it be a bit lower? than
It'll
that?
range,
Yeah.
but we are looking at also.
I'm gonna chime in here for a second. I feel really strongly about this point, and I know we've gone over it a million times, but every question you're hearing is really, could be so easily solved if you would please provide at the next meeting in December, or is it November, three-dimensional drawings that indicate exactly as best as to where you are today with your planning, because we know that you're working with LPC, you're saying. So clearly you're not showing the diagram with a square. And so we really need to see that this 3.5 wall, how it's being placed made with the wizardry of Gonzalo and the landscape team. We want to see it. And that is essential. And to have our buy-in, to have people really be able to engage. We say it all the time, and I can't believe that I'm sitting, because I'm sorry, I don't mean to be negative, but I'm feeling a little frustrated because I hear the questions. I feel my own looking at this. I was going to ask you to just literally walk us through. And Catherine's filling in, well, it's a 5-foot, 4-foot wall. At Fulton Street, what's the alignment? You know, what comes then? Is that a 4-foot wall? Is it a 2-foot wall? Where is it? What kind of placemaking are you looking there? And these are the things that are critical for us to have a sense of what it is you're talking about. I have no clue from this presentation yet what I'm looking at. We asked for, what are the deployables? We've asked many times. We've asked for examples of the deployables. We've asked for the 3-dimensional sketches. We've asked for this plan shown in tandem with whatever you can get of the master plan of FIDA. And I'm not looking for that big U anymore. I'd love never to see that slide again at this committee. We all memorized it, but let us see the updated one that shows us this plan with some sort of 3-dimensional understanding in the one that exists as it is today. Understood, this is a draft, with a master plan. So we can better really understand what you're proposing here. And I don't think I'm the only one here that has this problem, because I'm hearing it time and time again. So I'm sorry to chime in at that point about the graphics, but I just really feel strongly that.
We totally agree with you, Alice.
Yeah.
It has to come. I think what you don't see is some of the process and our team and what we've had to do to even get to that level of three-dimensionality. Every single one of these segments has been looked at very carefully with all the agencies, with the restraints of every stakeholder, of everything that we've seen. This team has been working diligently to look at every little issue.
So that piece of information is fantastic.
Yes.
And that should be introduced right off the bat, and maybe take one segment and
Yes,
tell us.
and we could even do that right now. I think if we have something in the practice, just to even talk a little bit about.
Well, they
why
don't
want
seem to
it.
have
They don't have any appendices.
You know what, if you tell me where it is, if it's on your website, I'll get it.
No. I think
We take the comment.
And I think what we'll
Yeah.
do, we'll start to look at every single one and why is that deployable where it is? And I think the why questions, I know we've talked about it, is that we have to take it to the next level. And I think the team is almost there, because right now there's just so much. You can even see on the analysis of existing conditions, dealing with the agencies, we have a lot of meetings with them. There are certain things we cannot do, so we have to take that into consideration, but we're getting there as to why that alignment is where it is, how tall it's gonna be, where the gates need to be, and I think all those will come together when we can show you that, based on all these things, we have to consider why it is a certain height. And we'll start to show that, and then we'll start to look at the placemaking. Like, we have to figure out exactly why that alignment has to be where it is.
But we still don't really know that. I think it's not a criticism really,
Yes.
it's just show us what the process
Yes,
is,
we'll-
so it's more transparent. You know, it would help us all so much, and I think that it's in your benefit to
Yeah.
show and share exactly what you're describing, the fact that this is an interagency project that's Herculean in scale and impact. Yeah, we should know it. I'm sorry, Gary, you have your hand up.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Gary Fagan. I was on the community board from the late 80s into the early 2000s. I was chair of the Seaport Civic Center committee when there were geographical committees here. At the time that the East River Bikeway Walkway was presented to this community board. I'm just going to limit my question, my comments to a very specific part that many of you know already my involvement in, which is that area that's the bikeway walkway north of the side of the former Newmarket building up to River Street, called Jerry Driscoll Walk, in great historical character in the seaport. Arguably, and I would say without doubt, my personal opinion, of all the coastal element areas in the Community Board 1 footprint, that area is the most woeful, the most abandoned, the most rat infested, rusted mess of any part of the entire U that we've been referring to. And it has been that way for decades. It's a stepchild, it's SBS jurisdiction, but Parks is supposed to maintain it. Nothing has had happened. With all due respect, Tammy,
Can you give the geographical, because many people
Yes, sir.
here don't know the exact cross
it's that
streets.
area north of the Newmarket building up to basically to the Brooklyn Bridge.
Here, all the way up.
Yep.
to here.
Where are you?
Yeah, it's, well,
Was that what?
Yeah, there was a picture. of it.
no,
No, it's for the south.
Right, it's
New
4 blocks long.
no,
Has the wooden,
no, 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 it's not the way about it.
We've gone
It's from, it's from north of the Newmarket site to Dover Street, where the wooden planks begin. In any case,
Over here.
So.
Here's the Brooklyn Bridge.
No,
Yeah,
South-
next slide. South of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Elizabeth, you did have one slide.
I did.
I think it's.
First off, too.
It's down more towards the alignment, so maybe 20s.
Yeah,
4 across.
24.
It's the 4 across.
On below.
More.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
You can't tell it from that, that's an old photo, but,
That's while it,
It's
that's
not-
while it was still viable.
yeah,
It is not
Tammy, with
viable.
all due respect to your, injunction about wanting trees and such there. When we worked with Parks and SBS and EDC about that design and there were some egregious propositions to it and, we were able to, deflect some of that. The idea of having vegetation, or especially, I mean, even now, on high tides, the water comes over it. And anybody who's walked.
Yesterday, I'm sorry, yesterday, I'm obsessed. I walk over there all the time. If it's like 6 feet, it's splashing over and it's actually popping up between the wooden planks and the concrete area.
No vegetation, no trees. It's become a rat infested area there. I implore you, I have 2 questions and 2 comments. It has to do with design, actually 3. Design, jurisdiction, and maintenance. I implore you, as you look at the design of that area, which I expect, I'm not sure, couldn't tell from the graphic, where the wall or the deployables will be, whether that area will be on the water side or on a marginal street side. The part, literally the walkway along the bulkhead there. I implore you not to put any vegetation in there. First of all, the water has currently destroys the salt water. And second of all, no one, God bless Parks, they're wonderful, but it's a stepchild of this entire community board, and it is not maintained. When we were talking to the designers back in the 80s and 90s about this, all we kept on saying is maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. Who's going to do the maintenance? And it just falls in the cracks. So my second question, Diane, this is really to you, the EDC. Can you, in your looking at this entire question here, talk about the jurisdiction? This is a very unique little element here. As I said, it falls in the cracks. no one's taking responsibility. Anything south of that, you got Finite, you got Seaport, everybody knows exactly who's taking care of that area of the, waterfront. This is just, it's just a disaster area because no one has specified what the jurisdiction is. I implore you to clarify that with the city agencies or with the state or whoever, so that when whatever's designed is built, it's clear who has responsibility and jurisdiction over it.
Okay, I think you just made our point that we did really well last month. We voted for a working group, create an East River Alliance. That, because we know that Parks doesn't have the funding, we know that EDC does not manage, they manage real estate property. And so the goal is, CP3 is looking at it and CP1, and we're working with partner organizations to form a working group to create an East River Alliance, East River Trust, East River Conservancy, whatever you want to call it, to be able to get all the way from the Coast Guard Station all the way up through East River Park to ensure that we don't have holes like this.
Tammy, I hope we had that conversation 30 years ago,
We
and I
did.
hope you're more successful than we were.
I'm pretty stubborn.
God bless you.
I'll say it first. But yes, I agree, and no, there is no plan for that, and that is part and parcel to the jurisdiction and governance questions that we're trying to talk to EDC about as well.
And that's my last point, Diana, which is not the design team really, is there any plan, or could there be some plan to address the woeful condition of that area before all this gets implemented? I mean, between now and 2030, whatever.
And I'm happy to connect with my counterparts at Parks, Intergov and see what we can do to shore up maintenance, because I recognize, this is a shorter term project, but it's still a while until we get there, and I recognize the situation that's in, so I'm happy to connect with them.
But it is maintained.
It
It is, sorry, you're right. In as much as that it is, the trash is picked up.
No, it's not maintained, I'm sorry, but it's not maintained, believe me. Look at it tomorrow.
No, I'm speaking from the EDC doesn't manage parks perspective, which is correct. We don't manage parks, but parks is responsible for the maintenance.
They're responsible, but they're not maintained yet. And look at what you licensed.
I'm
sorry,
thank
I'm saying they maintain it, they're not maintained.
I said they were responsible.
Well, that's different.
Okay, let's.
Thank you, Alice.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Anybody else have, any other questions for this team?
I have one last one.
Okay.
I am struggling with you coming back in November during part of the LMCR quarterly update. And I say that having sat through the CCLM meeting this morning, knowing what the Five Eyes Seaport Master Plan has on deck for the update in November. It's massive. And I think we do a public disservice by doing a flyby. You were here tonight, you heard, an hour and a half of questions and presentation for just your part of it. Five Eyes Seaport has so many things to talk about with new stations, new ferry terminals, moving piers, removing piers, adding piers. It alone could be 2 hours just for that. This morning at EDC, it was huge. So I would ask if Alice is okay with it. If EDC for a quarterly update is doing a large update for the public realm next month, could you come in December, and that would give you more time to come back with images and things like that?
And November was on your schedule.
December for November.
Public quarterlies in November,
Yeah.
and coming regardless.
Right, of
And I
course.
think it's important to provide a status update so people can see the full picture, but I recognize what you're saying in that it's not an opportunity to get into a lot of the nitty gritty, and it's a longer conversation, so.
Yeah, but I just,
happy to do that.
December says community meeting to alignment update, so isn't that what we're talking about?
Isn't there a public engagement in November, you said?
The community meeting too would be a larger community workshop.
Yeah.
We're looking to grapple with exactly the things that you're talking about, really showing opportunities for public realm enhancement, getting input, early on what folks would like to see.
So when would you be coming back with just this project to the community board?
You tell us, so you.
That would be
December.
helpful.
When
When
you
you
have
the LMCR quarterly.
And have our workshop in December, but if you want us to,
Come back to environmental protection, we can go with any.
Well, I guess it will be when we have the information that we made pretty clear as you would like to see that would be helpful.
Images.
Which is not just image, but just the design of, you know, the joining of the alignment with the placemaking, and some of the engineering. Where at with, like you said, you met with Landmarks. So they're involved in the process of the design with you, or is it sort of like, what are they looking at that, you know, they're advising you? I'm just curious.
So we're coordinating with Landmarks through FEMA. That's our lead agency. And so we're at the point where they're notified of the project. I believe EDC has had meetings with them prior to the start of Seaport. But as a collective whole, they haven't seen this. We've shared this with FEMA, and that's our first gate, and then we'll meet with them.
So nobody's been seeing other drawings than what's been presented to us, so this is for the same.
This was an update on the progress of the engineering feasibility to set the alignment of what can and cannot be done from just standard criteria of ADA, astral, things like that. This is our engineering feasibility to get us where the deployables will be and where the alignment can go. All of the constraints that we have, subsurface and.
Right, but with
above ground.
Landmarks, I mean, maybe this is to you, Diana, is there, what is their, I mean, where are you at?
Landmarks, those figures mean nothing to Landmarks. They need much more.
Design.
explicit
Yeah.
They need a
Right.
design.
I mean, and I think
So,
that's
but
why.
the work with Landmarks is understanding that it's a project, doing the feasibility and research components and what will be allowed within Landmarks. So it's conversations, yeah, we're not necessarily showing them the orange lines, because that doesn't tell Landmarks. things
So
that
they're not
Landmarks
seeing
needs to
anything,
know.
they're just seeing.
We're having updates with that.
With FEMA, right, who then feeds to Landmarks, and it's really height of intervention. It's about the disturbance of the soil. It's about the view corridors
So
and.
that's the sort of thing that, you know, would really be helpful if you were to have this information, which it sounds like you do. I'd be less reticent not to show that to the general public where you can, things that you're sharing with Landmarks. I think that would be really helpful for us to better understand the scope of this and some of the real, you know, challenges that you're facing. Because those are gonna be the same concerns that I'm sure that you have.
One last question. So when this mini project or near-term project, which is, I can't wait till you complete it, quite frankly, we can't start it soon enough. Will that area get DMAP from FEMA under their current plans, or that's not part of this project?
We're not. No.
I don't think it's part of this.
Yeah, I mean,
You just get, are you looking to getting insurance rates, you mean?
Like the Clomar and Lomar?
Insurance?
And will it be like DMAP out of being?
I don't think so.
Not
Not as of now, not as of.
Not with the 11 feet if I'm understanding.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted it on the record. to
The
find out.
DMCR and ESCO areas, those are going through the map revision.
Yeah, this
They're
one
going
is
through the
not.
map revisions.
This
So
one is not.
they will get DMAP for the flood insurance, requirement for flood insurance.
Can I ask one last question? When we look at the 5G towers, our favorite thing in this area, which keep being proposed all over, including in the flood zones, we had to become a consulting party to know what's being sent to SHPO to be able to comment. Do we need to sign up to be a consulting party for this to see what's going in because of SHPO?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
I'm not sure, I think.
Okay.
We'll have to get back. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I really want to thank everybody. So there are no more questions. I hope we made clear if there's any questions you have of us, what the expectations are. My only last question is, PPC, you said you're going in 2025, but that's only 4 months away. When in 2025 would you be intending to go?
I think our schedule has it not until spring.
Yeah.
After, yeah, I want to get a schematic geometry and get more feedback from the agencies, including FDNY, counterterrorism. We have a lot of coordination to still do.
Well, it's a huge project. It's very generously given. I hope we're, I personally apologize if I come on sometimes going, but I think everybody, you're hearing from everybody, a little bit more definition, a little bit more information. I get some really good clues. And I think the more you give us, the more you'll get the community And they're pretty engaged, and people know each block so intimately. I think it's fantastic, and I always think that's such a bonus for the agencies, maybe not in your mind, but I would think ultimately.
That's why we're here.
So anyway, a huge thank you, Diana. Thanks a million to all of you. Thank you so much. Our community isn't quite done yet. Here, just a few minutes on the sheet in front of you, and then we're done. Thank you all very much.
Please.
Budget request in front of you. And you got it.
I think we're
Good.
Sneaky. We're sneaking out. No, just, we have to go down this weekend, so.
What? What is this?
You're not.
You're not voting.
What are we voting on? I'm sorry, on the budget.
No.
No, she's here and
All right, then you are free to go.
You're free to go.
she's like, bye.
Oh, Diana, it was good to see you. Thanks
Oh,
for
is
the
it
double.
third?
Okay.
You can go.
Did this change since
I'm gonna
your
go.
meeting?
Well, unless you change.
Henry,
You were, I don't know.
They asked me.
Oh, okay.
Did you, okay.
So this is already been.
We didn't really discuss the
Tomorrow.
items at the executive committee because.
No.
This committee,
Would
But-
need to go over your stuff.
yeah, although people were free to raise them if they wished, and I don't believe anyone did.
Okay, well, guys, we're not at executive committee. The budget requests were discussed there because, you needed to write the full resolution. I mean,
The idea was.
Yeah.
Channeling Tammy here now, that if we wanted to make any changes in these, we were free to do so, and it would be taken up at tomorrow's meeting as an amendment.
Right. So with that in mind, we're actually not voting on a resolution. We are voting on, not voting. We are identifying things that they want to amend.
I have it with me.
Okay.
So sorry, I just remembered this when I first joined a year ago, but I have still no idea what budget.
City. It's, I love you, I love you. Okay, this is the city district needs. Every district, meaning these are what we tell people are the needs that we have in our district. And it goes everything from capital project to expense budget.
Okay, thank you.
And it goes by committee and then by board.
And there are priorities, because you see in those numbers are the priorities in terms of all the apps. So every committee included on that. And there's two things to do tonight. One, say you want to change anything here, in a fundamental way, we don't want to be here all night. And two, if you want to add anything, you want to get rid of anything. You want to reprioritize anything that's way out of line in your minds.
And what's the two different pages?
I don't know.
Because the other thing I was a little confused because the helicopter point is like halfway through on the right hand side or right. Everything else
Tell
seems
me
like.
what line, type,
So like right here, this.
tell me if it's a C or an E on the left side.
No, it's this introductory
So-
page on narratives and what.
So the introductory page is with each.
I was just confused. I mean, it's a good point. We agree with the point, but everything else is talking about something else. And then we're talking about how.
I didn't see that.
That's under, it's a last year's narrative for protective infrastructure.
One of the things you really want to do is get rid of things that just aren't critical. Because what happens is there's so many things that nobody in the right mind would read any of them, and certainly not implement it. So try to keep that in mind.
It's a narrative which goes over the summary for the section.
Oh, I see. So this is supposed to be like one whole paragraph and it just,
Yep.
it just came over on the other side.
Absolutely.
Okay, and there's no such thing as paragraphs in a narrative. I understand.
No, because not when it sits in a,
I get it. Okay.
It's definitely changed, not, it's something that I originally. Because,
And I don't know if anybody wants to put
Here,
in the
I'm-
lead stuff or if
I'm
that's not,
gonna,
that's not
I'm
even
gonna also
important.
screen share what I see online right now. So we're all, there we go.
when I added into the edits, the ones they sent you, I just pull it up.
That.
Is there, you know, when we have these huge projects that are going on, we have to ask for funding for independent monitors?
Yes. Yes. Because otherwise we're gonna.
It was on here.
Maybe I didn't see
No,
it.
no, no, I don't know where it's at. It was,
All right.
monitors do you?
You wanna start at
Independent monitoring.
You wanna start
Independent monitors for these huge
At the
projects that
top
are going
and
on in our
work your way
district. What do you think?
okay, I'm just looking at that.
Oh, we talked about.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll write that down. Let's start at the top and work our way down.
Okay, well. Okay, so we're so I'm gonna take notes and then just present these as amendments, so.
Can you do me a favor and go through the ones that you have on your sheet that start at C06? So I know if we're taking any of these off and go in order that you have them on the sheet and then we'll go and average it down.
Okay, so it is redundant, number 6 with number 56 somewhat, because you basically, and it's always get funding, because, you know, okay, anyways. So 56 should be where 06 is, I would say. It's basically, we're looking for funding of the creation of a West Side Resiliency Task Force,
Yeah.
which would encompass, obviously, what's more dated
Well,
fund
one's
number
expense,
06.
one's capital.
Excuse me?
One's expense and one's capital.
6 is capital. There, I interpret 6 as asking for the funding for the protection of
Oh,
health.
good point there. Well, it's simply just put it as-
Huh.
Okay, it's a capital.
C.
Capital is the plan.
You know, I'm looking. But we don't even have a plan yet, so what are we asking for infrastructure that doesn't even?
Well,
I think
I
that
we
that's,
want to have that funding.
yeah, I think we're looking for the funding.
Believe it, I stand corrected, it's a capital expense, okay.
I'm sorry, what are you doing?
We're going to.
We're helping, actually.
Did you just eliminate 56 or 6?
No,
We're keeping-
One is capital. Capital is the work itself.
And what is the?
And expense is the study to do such thing.
Okay.
But the capital, a little premature, without the study.
So
We
But
have
you asked-
no clue what the capital requirements.
But you asked for both.
What are we asking?
And again,
$1 billion, $500 million, $10?
We're not asking,
the city's
I
not
don't
gonna.
we're asking them to come up with.
Let me put it to you this way, we said, let's eliminate the things that are pointless because they're not gonna happen.
Cities.
Argue that this one simply has to happen until there's a study.
Yes.
But you have had it in for many years, and I have to say, I hate to take it away as if we're no longer interested, because
And
if you
the
look
ag-
comparatively, it's gonna all of a sudden. it's
Correct, and the agency says it is gonna, the agency didn't say no, it said under review.
Yeah, I think the answer is.
And quite
that
frankly,
it's-
we do have some movement because state DOT is doing their, study of 9A. So, which includes resiliency.
Combined
I can't see that as our top priority. I can't see this as our top priority.
It's
That's
not.
a fair.
I
What is
wouldn't,
this
I
number
would take
6?
it out. I would.
So we're not taking that, and I would just add,
Back on that.
well, I understand your point, but my point is then the look, if you look, then why did it disappear, that it poses a question like that.
Fine.
Okay, let's not. It sounds like nobody's disagreeing.
Disagree.
So resiliency infrastructure along the west side, are you able to edit on this thing? So I would put along the west side. Doesn't, more street is.
Question. I realized that, CSO system, we're talking about the city combined
Sewage
sewer
fund.
overflow, right? I'm hearing about all of the different programs to create barriers, but if the drainage system does not improve, we're gonna be inundated from outside the barrier and inside the barrier. And I don't see anything here, except 07 that addresses that feature.
They
I
said
think
they had
it's-
funding for it, at least that particular project.
Yeah, but that did come up today, and they definitely said they were looking at the drainage, but you're right, that is
But they said
so
they had
critical.
funding for it. They
Yeah.
said they had funding for it.
Yeah, that's so
And that-
critical.
They do have funding for it
And
already,
Battery Park City Authority has funding for the drainage for those projects.
but I
I
don't
think
see
all the
any.
projects that are funded have drainage.
I'm confused. We have it in these, in this.
Right, so you
Oh,
need
it's
to
five guys.
Make sure it's funded in other projects.
Yeah, no, I'm not objecting to this. I'm saying this is fine.
Overflow into
Yeah,
the eastern Hudson rivers by putting them within resiliency projects such as.
Yeah.
So what are we missing from
Okay.
that paragraph?
All right,
No, but there is, monies in the different departments for this. You know, resiliency talked to us about it, they're gonna work on it.
Each
Battery
project,
Park, gonna work on it, they told us tonight that they're gonna be working on it. So, it is gonna be worked on.
But actually, this request is different than what the resiliency projects are doing. This request is to basically fix the CSO system. No, even as the current and future system is how I interpret it. The resiliency projects aren't doing anything to fix it, they're simply going to use it.
Right.
Which means in a
Putting the one-way-
storm, they will
one-way
pump
valve.
it into the Hudson River and East River.
Right, so the difference is remediation.
This basically is,
this is a capture and treat request.
yes.
I think this is.
It's very
important.
I'm saying, I'm saying, it's
we're
very
not saying it's not important,
Yeah,
It's in there, yeah.
but in addition,
The others are funded. I mean, the drainage piece is funded. But the way the current drainage system works is that if you get too much rain, it pumps everything, including the sewage, into the rivers.
This actually speaks to what, Tom Fox from City Club was talking about and what the Hudson River Park
Yes.
Advisory Council talked about, the
Yeah.
concerns that with the gray water captured by Battery Park City and their new pump house that they've got over by Stuyvesant for their project, they're just pumping gray water out, and they're not storing, capturing, treating, they're just funneling more gray water into the sanctuary.
it just,
And
Drives
this
me
asks
up a wall.
for a reduction of the overflow.
Okay, so let's not.
So we want it. I don't think
yes,
we-
want this. Want to add something to it? I don't know how to add it.
But what do you,
He
I'm not
wants
sure,
more in it.
more included in the concept? Right,
Right resolution.
no, write it down and we'll amend it tomorrow. Just if we come up with a good paragraph, we'll put it in.
Thank you.
Give plenty of time.
All right.
Okay, so then, now for number 30, priority 30, next one down.
We've got 20 composting.
Well, no, I have number 30 that says for short-term, medium. Okay, so Tommy has one none of us have. Okay, we'll read it out loud.
That's expense.
It's just what happened to you.
This is
The
an
others is capital.
expense.
Okay.
This is composting and recycling.
Okay, so just let's go down the way we want to.
That's here. It's
Oh,
down.
no.
So yeah, the one that you're on, Tammy, do we need to say anything about, I mean, I just kind of, I don't know about anybody else's building, but you know, we were supposed to get composting the 6th and my building's not doing anything. And I'm trying to ask questions and.
Using it fine.
But this is not for residential. Our ask was for schools and
Schools,
institutions.
Right, but I just think that we should integrate the idea that we have this new law and that, you know,
Call the, yes, and my house on it.
yeah, I'm not, I mean, I don't want to
Well,
call
it's not,
on my own building and get.
it's saying it's not until,
But I just think that there's a new law that we should
well,
update this in the
they're not gonna
description.
start giving, fines until 6 months from. So, that's why nobody, my buildings aren't either.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is, they're not gonna be fined. They're saying, listen, you're on your own now, but in the future, you're gonna be fined.
Right.
So we have to trusts the buildings to do a job with education and how they're gonna handle it. But I don't think any, budget is gonna do that.
I think that the description here, too, I agree with you. I think the
Yeah.
description's fine. I just think it would say, including the new law recently passed or something like that, you know, for Manhattan. I just add a little bit more description.
So if you could just give us whatever the new laws and the date of it and then the name of it, then we're set. Okay.
About 3 weeks.
All right, so we've accepted that. We're going back to
You have to find,
23, this is an expense, you'll have to jump around a little, everybody. Let's just come up with a language you'd like to add, sorry.
Again, it's confusing.
I know it is because it's Tammy's.
And then she has the second.
Call it out.
Yeah, hold on.
Call it out and I'll get to it.
Okay, C33. Okay, I'm sorry, C30, for short, medium flood resiliency infrastructure, it should be we, CB1 encourages. So I changed the we to CB1,
But
because
isn't that-
innovative barrier design. I mean, what is, I would say you're looking to have it manufactured domestically, I guess innovative, all right, leave it. Texas.
I'm not sure.
Who's that capital? I don't understand that at all. That doesn't-
We have it, it's the actual mechanics.
And it says design.
What, we're asking the city to build these things?
No, no, no.
Well, that's.
meaning it's not a budget.
I just wanted the parts to come from the United States, but, you know, you don't have to agree with me, but I just think that, you know, if something breaks on these things, that's every time they say roller or move, what happens when something breaks? Where do we get the part from?
With that logic.
No, definitely agree.
Yeah.
But we have to ask, like, can you turn it into a, like a, what is the, what do we have, the funding?
I don't,
I think, I remember this conversation, I mean, like, I
Either
wonder
turn
if
to
this is
funding
really.
or something.
Take it out.
I don't see it, first of all,
You can take it out, it's okay. I raised it at everything, it's fine.
I'm not sure this, when you phrased it, I kind of agree with it. Now, given the scope of this stuff that's gonna come from all over the world, I don't think we
It's a
should
growth
stop it.
industry.
Yeah, I think I would agree with, you feel.
I'll tell
They'll
you
be
that my
that-
Italian
that-
You can take it out, I don't mind.
Are you sure?
It's totally fine.
What does everyone think about that? Okay, out, all right,
Out.
everyone's raised.
Sorry.
Which I kind of
Number
agree.
30.
I agreed with Wendy because my point was if you're not sourcing it domestically, we potentially could run into a situation where
You can't
you
fix it.
can't fix it because there's nothing domestically available.
Yeah, but isn't that a directive? That's not a.
problem, any company that goes
I just don't
under,
think it's realistic.
I just, I
That's all right.
Are
Call
we
it.
getting rid of all of number 30?
can't,
Yep,
can't control.
I cross
You
up
can
all
though.
that.
You actually can, when you are government, you can say you have to purchase this
Yeah.
domestically, and you have to, when you're
I don't think
government,
that's our job.
that's what California does.
Well, I would say this, that probably
It's not
should
a
end up as a
The
resolution.
resolution.
Yeah,
Capital.
it's not a funding resolution.
That's fine.
That's a very different.
That's not a.
We can argue it then, but it's not a.
You write that resolution.
I'm not fighting you, I'm just.
I think that's a good
Okay,
resolution.
let's go.
Another word for you.
Next
right?
one.
Okay, number 33,
Yeah.
capital.
That one's
Yep,
much
much
harder.
harder.
Provide,
ready for that.
provide funding for capturing or managing stormwater runoff in connection with the Brooklyn Bridge elevated road downspout. That was Rosa Chang's for the park, but that's,
It's not done yet, so it should stay there.
yeah, but that should be part of,
No,
No.
I think that, yeah.
It's completely separate and they were doing a
Got it.
renovation project of the bridge, so, yeah.
What, but wasn't this in another meeting?
No,
This
this
is
is DEP.
Okay. What about the Hudson Bay?
What's the next C?
Now, the next one we've just done, which was E, that, Wendy's got, she's going to give us the name of that regulation for.
No, E23. What did we do with the Hudson, with that? circle?
Oh, the Rotary. That's-
Rotary, what about the Rotary?
That.
It's here, that's 23 you're talking about, right?
E23? That's
That's Barnett Newman, I did add that, but everything I added for the executive committee didn't seem to get picked up.
Not necessarily true.
Well,
Is this it?
I mean, I didn't want to add the Rotary.
I'm added in.
I think
Isn't 23 and 25 the same? Aren't they the same?
Exec, we got rid of the Brooklyn Bridge stairwell because that's done.
okay. It was called the sponge, but I actually realized it's not called the sponge, it's called the rotary, and I wanted to change that, but it doesn't seem to be there. Let me see if I can find it.
It may be under Lake Forest.
But it was, I wrote it separate and gave it to you to include that night, because I couldn't go, so I have it somewhere. But basically, it doesn't matter, it's a capital expense, no, it was an expense, sorry, to research alternatives for green infrastructure on the west side, specifically at the Holland Tunnel Rotary.
Do you want to just combine that with E23 to say design, introduce green infrastructure?
No, definitely not.
Barnett, Newman, you know.
Totally different project, that's a triangle, that's not.
Okay,
so
send it in.
Rotary.
Send it in.
Okay, I will add, everybody agrees, the Holland. Okay, keep going, let's.
What's the next?
Fund cities green infrastructure.
E25.
Yeah, that's great. Good one, 25. I feel bad, I brought this out of myself. 27.
Yep.
Program facility which applies to local law 97.
I'm all in favor of that.
That's, they say it has to go to OMB.
What is that? What does that mean to us?
I don't think it's pulled on.
The request does not fall under DOB, please refer to OMB.
If you look down on the right, Richard, it says, agency response.
Okay, so it's a different.
It's a negative. Yeah, the agency cannot give priority to this funding at this time. That's what they said.
What does that mean when they say you gotta contact the agent? Meaning they want more information from?
When you take a look to the right, so for example, if you're looking at the bioswales, that was
Yeah,
the one
that's
right
right.
above that. It says it's under review, it's neutral, and it says this request requires further study. So that means they're not opposed to it, they just need to talk to the agency and see where you want to start perhaps, and make proposals to see.
Okay, with 31 is redundant in the first sentence, the first part of the sentence, so I think,
25 and 31 similar?
yeah, so I would say it would, but what's new here is there's a request for sewage, I'd like to see budget.
You want to
increase
include that with seven?
New technologies required to advance sewage treatment, for wastewater management.
Yeah,
That's sort of,
with seven.
that's sort of 7, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that capital?
Is
that expense or is that capital?
I would say that's definitely capital.
Seems like
Which
capital.
one? Which one?
I don't know, E31 sounds more like capital versus expense.
7 and 31, slightly different.
Technology. That's very different things. We're asking for new technologies. That's like an R&D
It would be.
request.
Yeah.
We're asking for them to actually do it. That's a capital.
Right.
So I don't know which one are we asking for here, or both?
It's an expense.
Maybe both.
That's both.
Probably
How's the
both.
difference between 23 and, or should those two be combined?
25.
43,
Oh, 23.
23 is a very specific location
I see,
that you're asking for.
I see.
31
It's
is
the more general.
correct.
Okay, so.
So could you just have a comma in 31 that said Barnett Newman?
No, but let's get clear here. What is it? Forget the whole green infrastructure. That is very different. Green infrastructure program is a program about funding green spaces, bioswales, different kinds of infrastructure that allow for stormwater access. This is asking for something very different, which is sewage treatment and wastewater management. So get rid of that first.
Totally
Get rid
different,
of
right?
the sentence, and then maybe that may, if you're asking for them to plan for it.
Why do we want that in Ward 1? A wastewater management and a sewage treatment plant. I would not say something. we
All right,
would-
let's get ready.
Well, it's asking for, it's really asking
I know,
for
I was like, why?
us to do
budget
the research and development for better technologies. I don't think that's us.
Get rid of it.
I don't think that's us.
I'm fine getting
All
rid of
right,
it.
what do you think? Anybody object to getting rid of it?
So if it's gone, let's go.
I do not.
Wait, it doesn't say we want them located in CD1,
Well, why do you want to research them in
Yeah.
one?
because we
It'll
want
be researched out on
it
Governor
to
something.
improve
Will be done.
in our area.
But if it's approved in our area, that means we have a wastewater
No,
sewage treatment.
no, we would just have advances in
Well,
those.
we have wastewater that goes elsewhere, I guess we.
It goes
not right to
elsewhere,
be
but we
concerned
want
with doing of it.
those elsewhere.
Not asking for
plants.
here.
It doesn't say we want them in CD1.
Well, I don't understand what we are asking for them, sorry, so maybe you should write it up, Sarah, because I have no clue what we're.
All right,
This
because that
says
was.
we're asking for the city to do research and development and develop new technologies. For the wastewater treatment and sewage.
Oh,
The
that's,
city doesn't do that.
Oh, that's a very different.
That's what it's asking. That's what it says. Reading it.
what
That's
he
it
said.
says.
What he
But DEP doesn't do that, do they?
Just what I wanted.
No. They don't do that. They use whatever technology.
Can we
is out
beg?
there. They don't run
It's
it on
just
the
a
DEP.
beg.
Right. Okay, moving
So
along.
I think we.
I think that's,
All right,
Thank you.
Now, remind me, on E45, North Cameras, remind me, did we vote that up or down? I remember we had a big discussion.
I don't know what it was.
don't really what that's thinking.
What is it?
Where would they go?
Against the noise on cameras?
I don't know what it is.
Give us some transpo, I
I'm happy to get rid of it.
I think that was on,
That's
that
easier.
was in our committee.
I don't remember that at our meeting.
Definitely be transportation, but.
I remember we had a big
There's
discussion
also-
at the full board about
I'm
this.
Yeah, I don't think it was discussed at this committee though.
And, no, but what I was about to say is that I think it was down, but I don't remember.
Okay, so
Because people were concerned of snooping and whatnot.
Okay, and so we're getting rid of it, okay. Study potential locations for desalinization and grid scale battery storage located on.
It was supposed to help the windmills.
Yeah,
Offshore.
that's fine. That's a good orientation location. Mhm.
And the last one was funding for creation of the website resiliency task force. Well, that stays.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to elevate priority.
Didn't you
might
say
wanna-
That's the highway.
What about the expense versus capital aspect of that? That was what,
All right.
I don't know.
I think, one of the things that, we should write a broad statement about lead, because the state
Yeah.
will pass, we're supposed to be fixing all the lead pipes in the whole state now. That did pass. And then, of course, this testing that, talk about, or I think that,
Yeah, for her, she was gonna send us.
but that's very specific, and I kind of think like the lead pipe replacement, and I'm
So
not an
funding?
expert on that, but
So
I
you're
just think that we should say
Funding
to
for that?
supplement or to create funding for, maybe that's actually capital, because that is replacing lead pipes and,
Oh, wait a minute, are we asking for the city to pay for private buildings to replace their?
well, I just think there are also public buildings that need.
I don't know if there are any public buildings left. No.
they were saying that the public buildings are better. than
No,
private
but that was the
buildings.
law.
The legislation.
The schools are tested.
Well,
The
I was
water
gonna say-
schools are tested.
It is, but I just remember, I mean, I don't know if they fixed it all, but Bronx Science had some water fountains they just put out of commission. I don't know if they came in and
Yeah,
all
the
the
schools
pipes out.
definitely had lead pipes, but I don't know how much they've remediated.
I don't know that any of us have enough,
I was just gonna
assurance of-
say,
Yeah, what do you?
I was just gonna say something like, we're encouraging the city to devote capital expense to mitigating and replacing lead in all forms and,
Let's see.
Something like
Not in private buildings.
In
not
city.
private buildings, in city public
Or
buildings.
lease.
But I would say.
Because
Something like that.
the city doesn't own every school building.
Well, no, but we can
Tammy
see-
does a better job with this.
I mean, we can say it, but that poses all sorts of problems.
Sorry.
In their
What was
lease
that?
spaces.
Sorry.
I didn't hear you.
Okay, so,
If the city is, let's say the city wants to move an operation to, let's say, 14 Wall Street. Do they need to replace all the lead pipes in that building before they can change their lease?
They should ensure that they don't have lead issues in the new space that they're going into.
to protect our employees.
Yeah.
One would think,
Well.
But the
I mean,
legislation is
then
saying,
they will simply not move that, but.
right, no, but the legislation is saying that the owner needs to, not
Yeah,
the,
I'm not
not
sure
the
that I want
tenant.
the city to be replacing.
It's the owner.
I kind of get that, so it'd be city owned.
It would be,
City owned.
it's a city owned.
So do you have the verbiage that you want?
You're gonna need to send it because I can't add it until full board.
Okay, so that.
And it's a
So
cap.
what, go ahead, Richard, go ahead.
what I heard them say about the city was that there are laws on the books for paint, but not sufficient enforcement. And I would say as an expense, we should ensure that there's sufficient funding to ensure enforcement of the laws against the laws ensuring lead is removed, or, yeah, per whatever laws are on the books, which I don't know what they
Well, that is not the.
So lead removal mitigation.
Lead removal mitigation should be enforced and funded to be enforced.
That the corporation capital, I mean, who else? So.
There's funding requirements.
Right, but that would be going to a different, not the DEP.
I'd rather put it
I don't
more,
know, maybe DOB, I don't know who enforces.
DOB mostly. I'd be like,
Yeah,
yes, it's
it's HPD and
HPD.
HPD.
Oh, HPD,
But-
maybe?
It's HPD, but
Buildings.
don't we wanna have funding more on help getting people in compliance? Wouldn't that be better
But
than?
that's what this does. It gets people.
No, but I mean, getting people, funding to get people making sure everything is tested and everything is abated if it is found. Isn't that a better thing?
Well, but I'm.
What
not
they
sure that
said was that there was no enforcement, that the rules are on the books for them to comply and abate, but there's been no enforcement. At least that's what I.
No, I
thought they
heard,
said.
I heard.
So if we want them to enforce the law, that will abate the problem. Yeah.
But then,
We're not paying for the abatement. This is to fund the enforcement of the law.
There-
That's
yeah.
what I'm.
That's
to
two
be some
different
sort
things,
of
right? The
enforcement.
capital is lead removal mitigation to be funded for public buildings.
Right, this is different.
And this would be,
Expense.
an expense to be test
No,
and.
no, he wants money to go
Ensure
into.
sufficient enforcement.
the private owner is supposed to do the testing. I mean, I don't know what the law say, but basically, it was
Right.
like the one that they were.
Whatever,
describing.
public or
Yeah.
private, whoever the owner is,
What
city
about-
or.
Correct.
Old house.
Oh,
It's been
just
there
said
for 100 years.
New York City Coalition to End Lead
Yes.
Poisoning.
You would have to.
They, all I had to do was sign a piece of paper that said I didn't know of any lead in the
That's
building.
right. That's how
But
it
they're
is.
trying to
right
change
now.
that.
They're trying to.
Yes,
They wanna change
They
that.
were finalized.
So it's the enforcement because.
No, but there's apparently some city. law-
There's
oh,
a
no,
new,
state
there's
law,
a new
yeah.
city, there's a new, I mean, it's not that new, where you have to make sure that every apartment, by 2025, every apartment has to be tested, actually, with that, except, whatever the XFR or whatever.
Right, yeah.
done.
Put it in.
And they rate, and they also lower the level of what that lead should be, content should be.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
here,
that's what I, yeah.
so this, so Shannon, the woman that sent it tonight, she sent this long thing on the New York City Coalition on Lead Poisoning. She wrote, the city has already committed to eliminating lead poisoning. It's a link to the resources on that. So should ensure resources, the city should reinsure resources, which is what we're saying. Available to meet that goal. And she lists the city agencies that are identified as playing a key role, one of them being DEP.
So we just
And
left this
DST.
language.
Which one is it? Alice, EPA? Who is it?
The departments that she said are identified in playing a key role are Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, Department of Buildings, Department of Health, HPD, DEP, Department of Education, Department of Transportation, and the New York City Housing Authority.
Yeah.
Outside everybody.
Yeah, I guess, given where this, the environmental protection, maybe we just concentrate on the people, I don't know.
Or DOB.
Write it up.
DOB on the
Yeah, I
list.
think, yeah, probably just lift that, just lift that. That's-
Yeah.
Lift it and get it ready for full board.
Yeah.
Okay, can you just put it in right now?
No, I cannot.
Oh, you can't do that on that.
I could, all I did was remove or edit for clarity, anything that's new.
All right, well,
needs
one
to
other
be
thing.
add- No, hold on, you need to write it up because I can't add it, it's your.
I asked you to, I'm just asking you to capitalize West Side Resiliency Task Force while it's on my mind.
And we need to add actually pursuant to what, Vera was saying that we should add under an expense an independent monitor for all the resiliency projects, Northwest, Seaport,
Good thing.
and Fidei Seaport Master.
Environmental monitor is what you're
And
talking
an independent environmental monitor.
Okay, is that it? Can we adjourn? Thank
I'm
you
happy to-
all. What do you think? Proud. And I'll wait till tomorrow night. Thanks very much.
Oh, and then tomorrow night, I forgot, tomorrow night.
Yes.
Please do not forget, I'll announce it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Board meeting in November will be the Monday Thanksgiving, because we wanted to move it back to have it away from
And I've seen.
the holiday, further away from the holiday.
Okay, so the Monday before Thanksgiving.
Monday now. I will announce it tomorrow, but I'm announcing it everywhere and anywhere.
He had surgeries, he had lots of little problems, and he was,
That's-
he was kind of just all over the place, and
Pardon?
now he's really,
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
he's great.
Ma'am?
You know, I don't think we have any idea.
Ma'am, is your meeting adjourned?
Yes,
Oh, I had it here.
He has come along.